think it's
Yeah, there was sound, and it's gone now. So I think we're good. I'm trying to just figure out the angle of my camera. I'm not cool like y'all. I feel like y'all have like a whole studio setup. I still gotta.
Man, please.
I also can't see very well. So, okay. How's it going?
wait. Good. Just be careful with your chair. I think it's the chair that's making that noise.
I'm going to be very still. I don't know how I'm gonna.
Crinkly,
Yeah.
like cheap ass bed noise. Like if you just sit on the bed that is wrinkly, like.
Right.
You know
But
what?
like maybe I should go sit on my bed. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
Sit on my bed. Oh, okay.
There we go. We'll hook you up with some gear at some point. Get you a microphone or something.
Well, yeah. I listened to the last. I mean, obviously, I listened to all of the last, the last 2 episodes that I was on. And first, it sounded like my sound was but then it sounded fine later. So, like, I don't know what changed, but I'm glad it did. It's better.
My sound the last time was ridiculous. It was. I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, it's like he wasn't even on. I think I heard Amelita in the background too. I was like, I think it just was taking up your whole room, and it wasn't even on. The microphone was just off. I think.
Yeah, like I don't.
Hold on, y'all. Yeah, I'll give you a second. I see my closet. Oh Lord, I had a whole plan to sit at my desk. So now I'm like, oh, there's something peeking out of my closet. Okay. How is this? This is so ghetto. I'm sorry, y'all.
You be
This is who I am. This is who I am as a person.
We'd be alright,
Yeah.
Well,
How y'all doing?
good. Welcome to episode 15. This is episode 15, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I cannot believe we've done 15 episodes.
And it hasn't even been 2 months.
No, it hasn't been.
Yeah, I've been cranking them out.
Yeah. Sorry, what'd you say, Lai?
No, I said we've been a little busy. I thought Aiitt said something.
I just
Somebody.
been cranking them out.
We have been cranking them out.
Yeah.
Cranking them out. But we've had stuff to talk about. We ain't got nothing else to do. We're all still quarantined.
First of
And
all, speak for yourself.
I'm
I
sorry.
got water to drink.
Exactly, man. You should speak for yourself.
Well, I have nothing to do, and I always forget to drink water when it's cold outside. So I have to remind myself because I don't feel thirsty. So I'm like, man, I go through the whole winter. I'm like, did I drink water once since November? I don't know, but
yeah,
I don't know. I drink.
drink water if you're out there, people.
Have you have you wondered before? Maybe this is more for you, Manny, right? I think you were kind of discussing this, and there's been a few times when in talking about some of our past episodes, I've been wondering if my parents kind of listen to this.
I haven't seen any listens from Nigeria on our statistics, but I'll be on the look for
Are you
Beck
sure?
with that. Well,
I was about to say,
no, I'm sorry. There
actually,
have been some Nigerian ones, but not Obekwita. They're still in the same town.
I didn't feel under the rock. Yeah, no, they are in Nigeria right now. They're back in Nigeria.
Okay, maybe, but I think it was probably maybe. I feel like we got Nigerian listens after IO
Yeah, that makes
came
sense.
on.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because IO definitely.
I shared it with some of my peeps.
Exactly. See, I've been doing it.
Yeah.
Job, kind of advertising or talking about the podcast at all. So I feel like it's I'm one of those guys that just do things and I'm
I wish we could have someone market for us. I mean, I'm the marketer and I'm not great at marketing either, but I mean, I do at least share stuff on social media, but it takes a long time to get clips and share stuff and tag people. I'm like, what the hell? This is a full-time job. Shout out to people who do that.
Nah,
and are good at it.
this shit. Like, trust me, even though the podcast sounds like shit sometimes, I still edit it.
Yeah, no, that's you take care of that. It was funny because I was telling Geneva, I was like, all right, well, Lai does all the editing and I do all the marketing, and she's like, both sound like they suck. I'm like, yeah, they do. It's no one got the better end of the deal here. It's just
man.
what crappy thing do you have to do?
I'm like, if people listen to this shit, go be like, they need to get an edit. I'm like, no, trust me. Yes.
Well, the conversation flow like works. So like, after last time I was on, I like listened to see if like there were any kind of cutting and pasting, and there was one place where I heard where I was like, oh yeah, that definitely like, but that was because like I was on, right? So I know that I said this and then I said that, and so when that wasn't there, I was like, oh okay, I see. I think he did a little clipping because like I was worried. I was like, first of all, I feel like I talk a lot, which I mean, I guess is kind of the point of a podcast, right? Like,
true.
Silence. But I also was like, I feel like I was like talking about random shit, which again, maybe it's kind of the point of this podcast. But I mean, I always have like weird, like, did I talk too much guilt after I talk at anything ever? So I was like thinking about it, but I listened to it, I was like, it kind of worked. It worked out all right. So
yeah, we think so. My dad is a fan of you, Io. He just said he liked those past couple episodes, and he just asked. Yeah, he asked if you were going to be back on, and at the time I wasn't sure that you were, because Lai. Yeah. I was like, is Io going to be on? Lai was like, let me ask. Like 3 minutes before the the actual broadcast.
So I can't. I mean, we're all doing nothing, so it's really kind of whatever.
I'm the worst scheduler. Like if you put it by me to make a plan, you
terrible. That is terrible.
Like,
see this, but that's how our podcast works. We just kind of. I wouldn't work otherwise. We can't have too much structure because this is like once there's too much structure, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, no, I mean it's fair. The thing is, if it works, then it works. If it doesn't, then obviously you gotta, But I mean, I feel bad because I was supposed to come on last week, but like. I went to Austin because I was losing my mind and I needed to get out. And so I was on my way back, and like for some reason my friend and I ended up leaving Austin like about an hour later than we intended to. So I was like, I could try to do this on the road, but I can't promise that the sound's gonna be good. So,
So where did you go in Austin? Were you at like an Airbnb or?
Man, I literally didn't do anything. So a friend of mine who I was talking to someone the other day about how this is like my coolest friend. And then they were thinking, this is kind of an interesting conversation, but like, he's like the friend I consider like the coolest person not the coolest person I know. I mean, I don't know that anyone has the title, but he's one of my coolest friends, right? He's an artist. And he does photography. He's done a couple of like music videos. He like does like he builds stuff. He's just like an artist. Anyway, so he's doing this artist in residency thing at this hotel. That is like just a cool concept. This hotel will like bring like artists and have them live at the hotel for like 2 months or whatever, and they're just like, hey, make art or not, whatever you feel like doing. So I had been meaning to visit while he was at the hotel, and so I finally did. I also stayed at the hotel, which is like right on the river, which is really neat. So like really just kind of walked. Like we were there for like 2 days and mostly like took walks and ate. And my allergies are really bad. I had plans to like go to some parks, but my allergies were so terrible that I was like, look, I can't be outside more than like 30 minutes and I'm dying when I get back. Mm-hmm. So really didn't do much, but you'll find this funny. No, maybe not funny, just like interesting. Dave Chappelle was at our hotel. I didn't see him,
snap.
But my friend gets back to the hotel room and is like, yo, first of all, I'm like asleep because I I'm taking all these allergy meds that like are knocking me out. So, and I like it when I first wake up, I don't know who I am or where I am or what's going on in the world for about like a couple of minutes.
That's not a good.
And so like I just wake up to my friend being like, "Yo, Dave is in the lobby." I was like, "Who? What?" And my brain is just like processing everything in slow motion. Like Dave Chappelle. I was like, "Oh." So the night before, we had seen a girl who said she was coming from the Dave Chappelle show. So he did like 2 nights of shows in Austin.
Yeah.
And we like it took us like a minute to understand what's going on because she's like, "Oh yeah, you have to do a COVID test." And then my friend is like, "Yeah, I heard you have to do a COVID test because you can't wear a mask at the show." I was like, "That is stupid."
Really?
Turns out it wasn't the case. Like you had to get a COVID test and wear a mask, which is much more logical. Because I was like, why the hell was Chappelle and Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I saw that.
Do a show and be like, "Hey, come get a rapid test and try not to spread COVID around too much by laughing too hard without your mask." Like it didn't make any sense. But they were staying at our hotel, and then my friend sees, is Darnell a name that you recognize?
Darnell Rollins from the Chappelle Show.
Okay, that sounds right.
He's opened up for Dave. When I saw Dave Chappelle in Philly, and he opened up for him. He's hilarious. He was on the Chappelle Show. He's Ashley Larry from the Chappelle Show. If you remember.
So
you never watched the Chappelle Show? Wait, what? Now we have to discuss this for the rest of the podcast.
So wait a minute, Matt. You think that is hilarious?
The Chappelle Show?
Not Darnell, like the.
Oh yeah, no, he's a great stand-up. I don't think he was originally a stand-up when he was on the Chappelle Show. I think he was just like a comedic actor that Dave got for skits, but like he's been working at stand-up ever since, and I've seen him. I saw him live. He was great.
He was we saw him a lot. I saw him in the lobby like a few times. He was just like hanging out.
The funny thing about that guy, he's Korean.
Did you see that on the Joe Rogan podcast?
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
Wait, what about him? I didn't hear what you said.
Darnell Rollins speaks Korean because he was in the military before he did.
No, that's fascinating.
Yeah, he's actually pretty. I mean, that's really interesting. But
yeah.
The way he learned it.
That was so. My friend is like apparently a big Joe Rogan fan, which I don't. we ended up having an interesting conversation about just like I don't know who Joe Rogan is, right? Like I think for the first
wait a minute. Back up a little bit. When you say you don't know who Joe Rogan is, I think you haven't
let me tell you how bad it is. For the first 20 minutes of my friend and I's argument about Joe Rogan, I thought he was talking about
Joe Biden. You were arguing about politics.
No, there's somebody else.
I just don't like him. Why don't you like him?
Is there Joe Budden or something like that?
Joe Budden?
That's somebody, right?
It's like, I just didn't like the song Pump It Up. I didn't like it. I thought it was whack. I didn't like it. It's like, what are you talking about? Joe Rogan's never rapped. Yes, he did. He had a song on 106 in Park.
Somebody was getting canceled. All I know is one of them got in trouble. Somebody named Joe that has a podcast, maybe, or maybe
Joe Budden has a podcast that's very popular.
Okay, is he a Trump supporter? Or like,
not to my knowledge, he might be.
Let me tell you, y'all. I really was like arguing, and I was like, you know what? I probably sound dumb, and he's probably gonna listen to this podcast and be like, you didn't even know who I was talking about, and you were arguing so hard. But I was like, look, I'm gonna argue, and I'm gonna argue until.
So I can educate you. I know who both of those people are, as most people. If you listen to first of all, those are two huge podcasters. Joe Rogan is a bigger podcaster because I don't know if there is a podcaster bigger than Joe Rogan. But yeah, Joe Rogan. Podcast, Joe Rogan penned a deal with Spotify in September for like $50 million to have his. Was it 100 million? Okay, 100. Yeah, sorry, $100 million to have his stuff, his all of his episodes spanning back from like 2011 to be on Spotify's platform exclusively. So yeah, it's funny because like nowadays there's so much content out there that Joe Rogan might be a little bit of an exception because a lot of people do know who Joe Rogan is, but like you can really be into a certain person who podcasts, and like I would know who he is, but like so like that person's very famous to their listeners, but like otherwise people have no idea who that is. So, but yeah, so Joe Rogan, you know, he has people on his podcast from like artists and really anyone. He had Bernie Sanders on there. You know, I don't. How many downloads does he have? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Did he get like low key canceled about something? I feel like he did something that made people mad.
They're always trying to cancel him, and he doesn't care.
Like, and now I gotta apologize to my friend because I really don't know that about this man. I was just like, I don't like him. I heard he said something stupid, and so I don't like him. But then the thing is, you could say that sentence about anybody, and the people who are fans of them will then tell you the thing to now make you like. So I mean, literally, I didn't even know who this dude. I was like, I don't know. I know he said something that was like kind of messed up. Well, apparently he said something that can be interpreted as like, what's the word?
They called him
transphobic. I was like, what's?
He says dumb shit all the time. Like, there is a part of me, I totally I understand why he's popular, you know, because I feel like he kind of represents what you would think of as the average Joe, you know, like literally his name is
not Joe Budden or Biden, though.
Or Joe the plumber podcaster.
So, he's not really Joe the plumber. You can't necessarily put him in a box, but I can see people on the right and left hating him.
No.
He's white.
He does say.
Let me tell you, I gotta Google this man.
He says dumb shit all the time, and I feel like he's willfully obtuse in certain instances.
That's the impression I got from the argument, and I don't like that.
I love how you learned about him through an argument where you were arguing that you didn't like him.
and the argument, I was like, see, I really don't like him now that I know who he is.
Yeah. No, he's definitely said things that people, you know, wouldn't like. The thing is, he says a lot of things. That's the problem. He podcasts all the time. He's been doing it for 10 years, and he says whatever he wants and whatever comes to his head. So, if you have a track record of you talking for 10 million hours,
right.
Like his podcast lasts for like 4 hours long. Like he really just kind of says whatever he wants. And he's also a comedian, and so he's all over the place. I mean, it's hard to even really pin him down on like where he is politically all the time. I mean, I think he votes Democratic, but you know, he said things that have been, you know, seen as like transphobic, homophobic.
And I think that whatever it was, so here's the thing. While I didn't really know who he was, I'm very active on Twitter, and I am often part of like conversation, like not part of, like things will pop up on my timeline that I'm reading through sort of like casually. So I'm not like really paying a ton of attention to like what people are saying about Joe Rogan or whatever. But I remember seeing his name, and it was around like, it was one of those things I was like, I don't remember much about the guy, but he probably is homophobic or transphobic or said something that's like problematic, right? And so then my friend starts to get into it and says that apparently it was something about Castor Semenya. I think that's
that runner from
the South African athlete, right? And it seems as though what Joe Rogan said was, I don't know a lot about this, but you could see why people feel XYZ way. And like that, so when you say that like willfully obtuse, I think that it's annoying to hear people who a lot of people listen to who are somewhat in the public sphere say things like, it's like just, if you don't know, then don't say it, like, or go try to find out. Like, don't say like, I can understand why some people are upset about this thing, but I don't know enough about the topic to talk about the topic, and then you talk about it for 30 minutes, right? And it sounded like that might have been the conversation that got people upset with him. Again, I really don't know enough to like even say why this man sucks, but I was like, look, here's my thing. There are a lot of people who are famous who I don't know anything about, when I hear problematic things about someone, I'm not now going to be like, oh, no, I really want to understand both sides of the arguments. And I'm going to go listen to 8 hours of this guy's podcast. No, like I could just listen to all my other podcasts that are like piling up. I'm not going to go try to figure out if I like, especially because it's like, it's not running for office. It's not like, I don't care. And we thought about going to the Chappelle show, which I guess Joe Rogan was going to be at, which I guess I would have then learned a bit more about him, but then it was sold out. So like, it wasn't an option, so like whatever. But
what I would say is one of the controversies that he had was, he had Alex Jones on, right? And Alex Jones is this crazy.
Infowars? Is that Infowars?
Yeah,
Okay. I know things a little bit.
The conspiracy theorists and all of that stuff. So this is how I look at it. There is a responsibility that you have to understand that you have once you command a set, once you go big, right? And I think he wants to have it both ways. He wants to be able to just do whatever without being criticized. And typically people talk about, I think there's a difference between criticizing what you say or who you choose to platform on your show versus deplatforming people for what they said. So, for instance, YouTube deplatformed Alex Jones, right? Like, he had a whole slew of conspiracy theories that he just went on and on about, to the point where he started, when Sandy Hook happened, they started basically harassing those parents because some of it, he's basically feeding people that was a hoax.
Yeah, see, like that shit's nuts.
Just disgusting stuff. So that is, there is a responsibility that you have as a person when you legitimize those kinds of people.
Yep.
Just, when you start both siding issue, I feel like that is probably something that he doesn't take seriously. That is a responsibility that he doesn't take seriously. Now that he has gone to Spotify, I mean, when he had his own show and it's just on YouTube, that's one thing. But once
you think he'll tone it down?
No. He gets listens, guys. It doesn't matter.
Like, that's what that's what made him.
So there was a controversy about something that was he said, or one of his guests said, that was like transphobic, and there were people at Spotify who were like, we're not going to work for Spotify if you keep these episodes up. And he was like, Spotify hasn't talked to me about it. Like, I mean,
and I bet you those people still work for Spotify.
And they do. And it's like, they're not going to ask me to, he's basically saying he has like artistic control, which, I mean, I'm not against. If people don't want to listen to him, don't listen to him. But people listen to him. And like, I will say, I definitely don't agree with everything he said, but a lot of the stuff is not necessarily that inflammatory or political. A lot of it's just him talking. And he is a very he's a pretty likable guy, whether you agree with him or not. Like, I found his stuff really because I was interested in like comedy, and so he'll have comedians on, so I get a chance to kind of hear a conversation with comedians that I'm following or whatever. And so I kind of got sucked in that way. But it's actually pretty interesting. A lot of the stuff is very mundane that they talk about. And for whatever reason, he's a very good conversationalist. I actually like him a lot more as a podcaster than a comedian. His stand-up. Yeah, I don't really like his stand-up, but he's a great podcaster. Like, if I met that brother, and I would be like, yo, like, if you have any tips on podcasting, like, he's really, really good at it. And the thing is, like, he leaves it all out there, right? So you're going to see the problematic parts about him. You're going to see the endearing parts about him. I feel like I know him pretty well just because I've listened to so much of him talking. And so, of course, I don't like everything he says, but a lot of stuff is fine or interesting, or he has good guests on, and you kind of get to hear them talk. And it's just I think it's what's kind of cool about it, take away, what you think about it politically, is just how he's kind of revolutionized how we listen to things. I feel like he's like he's like a Howard Stern / Oprah of our time or something. It's a new way that people
funny, because I literally have never even heard this man So like I can't even tell. It's like
I like vaguely heard of them and then like 3 years ago I heard like a podcast and I was like I kind of knew who he was. He had done Fear Factor. He was the host on that. He was doing stand up the whole time. So he was like this like C-level celebrity that you kind of like, oh, I've heard that name, or like I've seen that before, but I didn't really start listening to him until maybe 3 years ago on his podcast. And I mean, I don't listen to him every day, but I've definitely listened to quite a few episodes.
So I've known of him for a long time, but that was just simply because I watch MMA, UFC, and
that's right, yeah.
He's like an announcer for UFC. So he
don't know nothing about that man.
He has it.
And he's good at that, right? I would imagine. I don't watch it, but
he's great at being an announcer for the UFC. Like he's amazing. Maybe I've seen like his comedy once, like just clips, and I just thought, nah, this is
it's not. It's not where he shines, but he does shine as a podcaster and an M&A announcer.
Like he's great at being a podcast and MMA. You know, as we were talking about him signing $100 million contract to go on Spotify, I kept thinking like, how much would we?
What is wrong with you?
Like,
how much is your podcast worth? Is that what you're trying to figure out?
Let's see. Like man,
you trying to embarrass yourself at this point.
How much would Spotify ask for us? We paid Spotify to let us on. Please let us use your platform.
Yeah,
no, you don't have to pay. I think I made that up. I don't think we paid.
I was gonna say, wait,
but it wasn't. I mean, we would have if we had to. If there was,
like $10 an episode, you're like, sure.
Yeah, it's like, all right, sure, we'll pay that.
It's funny because I think that I probably started listening to podcasts like fairly consistently, probably like 2013, 2014. And my podcast experience, it's weird, right? Because like I think that I'm a podcast nerd in the sense that like podcasting is where my nerdiness comes out now. Like I don't read a ton of like autobiographies. I mean, here and there, like I do like audiobooks. Like I'm listening to the Obama book.
So basically, the news from podcasts. That's what you're saying,
right? But not just news. Like I literally like it's edutainment. There's like some of my news podcasts. There's like. So the first podcast I really got into, probably kind of helps contextualize this, is Freakonomics. And I don't know if y'all know anything. Yeah, so okay, y'all are nodding. You know enough about it. It's funny because then, like, after a while, I started getting like when other people started knowing what a podcast was, and I was like, oh yeah, listen to Freakonomics. They're like, ooh, you nasty, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Freakonomics.
Freakonomics, not OnlyFans.
Right.
So yours was your first podcast was Freakonomics Live. What was your first podcast you got into? Freakonomics. I've actually never gotten into it. What is that's the guy who wrote the book Freakonomics, right? Right. I can't remember his name. I think I read that. What is his name?
Stephen Dubner and Steve. There's two of them, and they're both Steves.
So I'm imagining it's just a way to look at things from a new perspective or a different perspective that might help you kind of apply it to being more efficient at processes. Is that?
It's not.
That's one thing. So it is really a podcast about behavioral economics, right? Like if you or just human behavior. So they will ask interesting questions like, why do we do X? You know, so for instance, one of the questions that I want to know is, why do people talk about the weather when they are in an elevator? Like, so for instance, you go in an elevator with a stranger and whatnot, and you're like, hey, so it is 65 degrees today, and like, why is the go-to?
Why the weather and not anything else? But
one of the questions that they've asked before was this a question they asked on the episode or even in their book? But it was basically something like, why do drug dealers live with their mom?
Oh, that's a chapter in
they?
the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and they
they
kind of
an analysis of that, like, and
Got you. Okay. I mean, that's interesting. What was the answer? Why did drug dealers live with their moms? It sounds like the beginning of a horrible joke, but
well, so from what I remember from the book, which is funny because like I had to read the book for a class in college, like 2010. So it's because like the hierarchy of the sort of equated to like working at McDonald's. Like the hierarchy of drug dealing is no different from that of any like huge corporation or whatever. It's like the guys who are on the street, they're low level, so like they don't have money to get an apartment and all of that. Like they're minimum wage essentially. So that's sort of, you know, he did get into kind of more specifics about it, but that's sort of the like general answer.
got
Like,
you. I thought you were saying. Got you. I thought you were saying they were choosing to live with their moms. Like maybe that would keep cops off their back. Like, nah, I just live with my mom. I don't make money. And they're like hiding it in a stash behind the PlayStation 2 in the basement or something. I got you. Yeah, I read that's interesting. I read a book, and it was by this Indian American sociologist who I think he was at the University of Chicago, and he lived in the projects in Chicago to do like sociological research. And he was talking about I can't remember the name of the book, but he was talking about.
That guy was on Freakonomics as well.
Okay, he may have asked him in that episode, because that sounds very similar to what he was saying. Was like, you know, it's your kind of foot soldiers. It's not like they're making that much money.
Yeah. So actually, that was the research that he.
Oh, really? Okay, that's funny. What is the name of that book? I cannot. What the heck is? I read that in my sociology class in college. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was funny because I remember there was one scene in that book because the guy's Indian American who was doing the sociological research, and like everybody was saying like the N-word, like it was just, you know, they're just throwing it out, like, because that's just what they do. And he tried to say it one time, and they all stopped and stared at him and like, don't ever say that shit again. All right, cool.
You're not the right brown, bro. You're not the right brown.
But they just said it to him so many times that he was just trying to be like, okay, am I supposed to say this? Like, it's like, all right, nigga. It's like, don't ever say that again. We're gonna give you one chance, and then we're gonna shoot you if you say that again.
Oh my god, that was.
What do you think about like some white folks claiming that they have passes to say the N-word?
First of all, I hope they all get stomped on. That's what I hope.
Who? Let's think of white people who claim that, because I'm trying to think. I don't think I know anyone personally. Let's think. Are there famous people who think it?
Cruz, Chet probably says the N-word to his friends.
Oh yeah, to his friends, not to his white friends. Not to. You think he says? I don't think he says it to black people.
He probably has a black friend he could say that to.
That he thinks it's okay.
That's usually where it starts. Like, I mean, I'm sure they say it amongst other white people. Like, I don't count that, but I feel like it usually starts with, like, they say it around. Like, I know, like, I went to high school with maybe not white people, but like definitely like Hispanic or Indian kids who probably like said the N-word to their black friends, and because we always say that like they, you know, white people shouldn't say the N-word and they might get beat up for saying the N-word, but really. Are there white people out here getting beat up for like, because like in my high school, like people that look at you funny, but like you're not gonna get beat up. And if looking at me funny is the only consequence of something, does that mean I'm not gonna do it again?
If I was white, I just wouldn't even mess with it. I wouldn't even want to find out. Right, I'm a sensible person. It's like, why do you need? Like, it just wouldn't. Even, it's just not even my word. Like, why would you even? What's the desire to say it? It would feel so. It would feel so forced and awkward and terrible. But it is interesting. Like when people who are not black but they're brown. You know, you'll have Latinos in New York will say it, and it's not. I mean, but like they get passes. Like it's funny because like
I don't understand either. Like
Puerto Ricans get passes. Like you think of Fat Joe gets a pass. Fat Joe says the N-word all the time. DJ Khaled is not black in any way. He's like Middle Eastern. He says the N-word. French Montana is North African, but that's not like black in the traditional sense. He says it all the time. But again, I don't mind it. Like, I don't know why, but that's a double standard maybe, but I'm just like, that's fine.
I wonder if it's just because it's.
I think you don't mind it because you kind of understand the context in which they're saying it.
Right.
Contextual, right? Like,
but white people can say it in the right context, right? Like,
yeah, but
I've never heard a white.
Was like, I love my niggas. Like, that's the right context.
Joe Biden or Joe Budden?
And Joe Rogan, all three of them at once.
Joe Rogan. They should all have a podcast. Joe Biden, Joe Budden, and Joe Rogan. That actually would be a good podcast. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I would listen to that shit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say before, you have to have banked some credit before it can be accepted that okay, you can just say that all willy-nilly in just a regular context, maybe in the context of music or just it's one thing if you say it in the context of music, right? But in just a regular conversation, like it's just weird. How
does it come up when you're a white person?
That's what I'm saying. I think that it's like if you are in that context, right? Like even white kids in whatever, like in the hood or places that they're around, like those those white kids who have a buzz cut, who have like black haircut. You know what I mean? Like,
and like the dog tag chain and the flight jacket.
Like,
yeah,
those are the white guys that are like, you dig black girls. I know you do. You
can't, but you can't just be like you have to be blacker than Justin Timberlake. You can't just be a white guy that kind of has soul. And I don't think that's who you're talking about. I think you're talking about blacker than Justin Timberlake. I think you're like, more towards Eminem. You know what I mean? But like even Eminem, like he's never
Timberlake. Like is he considered black in any sense because he was
he can dance. He
was, yeah. I mean, he was never black enough to say the N-word, but like he definitely, made music that was like hip hop and R&B, and people will say he's a culture vulture, but.
Not that term. Oh Lord.
But yeah, no, his stuff would be played on BET and hip hop stations.
That, but I'm just. Anyway, I'm
not so much anymore, but when I was coming up, when I was in high school, and he dropped that song with the Clips and Pharrell, and he had his Cry Me a River remix with 50 Cent. Like, I was like, all right, I mean, I liked it. Again, not enough for him to say the N-word, but like it was, black people would listen to him occasionally.
I mean, so I guess that got into his head. That was why he did the braids, right? Like,
yeah, he did have braids. That was wild for a little bit, but that was weird. But yeah, generally there have been. I think I've seen when you like to be black enough to say the N-word, you've got to be a white person who's way blacker than I could ever hope to be. Like, you have to have grown up basically around nothing but black people. Like I've seen white people like that where they literally can't. That's just how they talk. You know what I mean? Like it has to be like that. Like Paul Wall, like maybe even more, like more than Paul Wall, if you can imagine that. Like I think there are white people that are even blacker than. That's pretty black, but you have to at least start at Paul Wall. Like Eminem's. Yeah. It's like Eminem's not even black enough. You have to start at Paul Wall, in my opinion. And even then, I'm still not sure. But there are some white people that grew up around literally nothing but black people. That's rare.
I'm a purist. I'm an N-word purist, right? Like no, you can't you can't say it if you're white. Like but again, how do I don't enforce that. I don't it makes me uncomfortable. And like for the longest time, I didn't even say the N-word, and now I'm just like, nigga, please,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say it my whole life. I found it later in life. Donald Glover has a funny joke where he says he started saying it later in life, and he missed like the N-word like motor skills. They're a little off. So when he says it's just a little off because he said it.
I can totally see that. I've never thought about that like that. It's
just a little. Like, can you say that? Like I don't know.
Because I have this.
I have a funny N-word story, different from Niger. Like it's not Nigeria.
Is that about Nigerians?
So this was when we were in law school, right? We were in law school, and there's one of our classmates. I'm not going to mention his name, and Manny, you know this guy. I mean, and I was gonna G-chat him, and I was gonna say something like Negro or something like. It wasn't even NIG.
Look at my face. I'm scared.
Oh.
It was like it was like Negro, right? Like and
Negro,
right?
And then I accidentally sent that to a white girl.
Yeah, you said like Negro, please, to like a white girl, to like the teacher.
Oh my Jesus!
I was like, oh snap! I'm pretty sure this wasn't. And they were just oh man, it's funny. I have another story kind of like that. It's probably not as funny, but like I was sending a text to Geneva, like just an inside joke, and there was this video that went viral with this kid who said, "Where we about to eat at? Where we about to eat at?" Like this black kid. I don't remember why, but it was just like a funny, like viral thing. But I sent this text to Geneva, and I said, "Where we about to eat at?" And then I like had this meme of like this black kid like dancing, like really blackly, and I sent it to her, and then I realized I sent it to like one of our then I sent it to one of our white contractors who was like doing some work on the house, and I was like, sorry, so I didn't mean to send that to you. Do you mind doing business with me? But yeah, no, that was funny in law school when you sent that to that. Yeah, I was.
Person.
I mean, it was. I don't even know what I think about it. Like I'm like, I don't care. Like,
oh, they'd be
like it's whatever. My fear now.
I was thinking today though, like I was thinking, would I get in trouble for that today? You know what I'm saying?
No.
Nah. Especially because you said Negro. But even if you said nigga, it's like, nigga, I said nigga. He would actually be.
Even if you had a GGER, which you shouldn't, but even if you did, like.
He's like, I guess that's how they talk to each other. That's interesting. I think he appreciated
what would be crazy would be the opposite, right? If you were a white girl trying to message, a white boy that you say the N-word to, and then accidentally turns to a black guy.
Black guy.
So that's actually happened. Not to me, but so my sister. I won't say these people's names, but she was friends with people in high school. It was like sisters, and one of them said they were like asking about, they were like talking to each other, the two sisters, and my sister was there, and they were saying something about their dad. I'm like, oh, why is dad doing that? It's like, dad's such a nigger. And then they realized and then
that's like the worst case.
And then they immediately realize, like, I am so sorry, and they just started like.
Use it because it's like you don't slip. If you're a white person who uses the N-word, you're gonna slip, and you're gonna be stupid. Because once that happens, it's very obvious that you use it normally. The only reason you feel bad is because a black person.
Because I'm right here, and it was one of those out of body experiences. My sister, she didn't get mad really. It was honestly, that's hilarious because it's like, wow, that's how y'all talk like that. I got a sneak peek into like how you use that word, and she called her white father a nigger, and
not like in a way that would be okay. Like that's the thing, right? It's like if she had said, I mean, I guess the question is sort of, while yes, I think that white people should not use that word at all. Is there a difference in how they use, like this? I mean, and offended, like I have, sort of a African immigrant complex relationship with the N-word and all of that, right? But like, so I don't know that I'm personally like deeply offended by it or anything like that. But I think that it's definitely worse to use it in a context where you're like, oh my God, that is such a nigger versus like, what's up, my niggas?
Oh yeah, they were definitely using it more in like
like they mentioned like daddy is an idiot or whatever, like whatever
right. It's
negative
closer to
context is in
the
it.
original context of the word,
Right.
but it
And
was
that's
still,
like really
but it was like
what the fuck.
it was an interesting look into how people actually talk, which I think is important because
Right.
I don't like us censoring everybody because I want to know what people are saying. You know what I mean? Because it's like I want to get a sense of like what's actually being said, what's happening, and I feel like that's one thing podcasts do is it kind of gets people in a space where they start talking how they actually talk, and sometimes you hear like people say stuff like that behind closed doors. They you would never say that in public. And or my sister got like a glimpse into like how they actually talk, just like when Lai sent that G chat. He got a glimpse into how he talks to so and so. I know it's like not quite the same thing, but it's just like it's an interesting look into because you would never like you would never actually send that G chat to that guy and be like Negro please or like whatever you said, but you would talk like that to another person because you feel comfortable. I'm just like for me, it's more like curiosity into what are people actually saying.
I don't want to know what white people say to each other, like about like stuff like because. Probably because I don't. I think they're saying stupid shit. So like I don't want to hear your stupid shit because honestly, like I already think y'all are all crazy. Well, I mean, whatever. Wait a minute.
You know,
I assume the worst, and so I don't want some of those assumptions confirmed because an assumption, at least I'm aware that it's an assumption and it could be wrong, and maybe that's a good thing. But I don't, like I would hate to know that like white people that I work with or whatever, like on the phone to their moms be like, oh my God, these niggas is stupid. Like, I don't want to know that. I assume you probably do or not, whatever. It's just like, I don't see it. I don't hear it, whatever. But I don't want to know it because I
don't think they're probably not saying that. I mean, like, maybe, I mean, some might be for sure, I guess. But yeah. I think part of it was also that these people were in high school. That is
right. I mean,
people say much crazier things in high school.
If there was a video of them doing like this girl, like I got there's a whole thing. I don't know if y'all heard about it. It was like a TikTok, I think.
Is this the girl that got fired from her job, like a consulting job? Is that what you're talking about?
No, this one was like about to go to high school, so she ended up like getting her college acceptance offer rescinded because of a situation where she was like saying it's the N word, and it was like, I think it was like one of those. It was like a hard GG.
Jesus.
And it's something that happened like, maybe like 2 years before. People were like, well, she's a kid. And they're like, yeah, but you're 15 and now you're 17. So it's not that big of a difference. And blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't, like, I had complex feelings about the idea that like when someone does certain bad things, their university finds out about it and they lose their university acceptance or whatever. Like, I'm like, look, I'm okay with people getting consequences for doing things. I just don't know that like I support it. It's one of those things where it's like I'm not against it, but like it's not like that does not make me feel like justice was served if it's a situation that's like a crime or something.
Right, racism is cured because this person can't go to USC or whatever.
Right, like it's like whatever, like. Now, I don't think she gets to like sue and be like, I got this, something because she didn't get to go to that school. I'm like, this is a thing that happens in life. Like sometimes you can't go to USC because you said N-word, and sometimes you can't go because, you don't have the grades. Like this is just life. Like you go to UTK and you'll be fine, or like, whatever. But this is kind of a different situation, but there was like a situation with like this guy who I actually know. There was a whole thing on Twitter, on like Nigerian Twitter. He was basically being accused of like sexual assault. And there were like multiple women who said like he had done things that were like very, very questionable. Like not questionable, they were straight up like awful. They weren't rape, but they were awful, right? And it's someone I know, like I've hung out with. And at the time, so as people start tweeting about it and, oh yeah, he did this and blah, blah, blah. Then like somebody posted, they're like, oh, he just got admitted to Harvard for, I'm like, am I saying too much? He had just gotten admitted to Harvard for some program, right? And people were like, "Oh, here's Harvard admissions' email address. Email them so they can like rescind his admission." And like, I had complex feelings about that because I was like, I mean, I think that if
why do you think you had complex feelings? Like, do you think you had complex feelings about it because you knew this guy, or
it's possible, but I think that I have complex feelings because I know him because I give a fuck, right? Like if it was like a random dude, I'd be like, I'm like, okay, you don't get to go to Harvard, like I don't care. But like, but it's not because I wanted him to. Like I think he should go to jail, right? Like because he like did a.
Well, did he commit crimes? What did he do?
Yeah, the things that he like. It was like. It wasn't rape, but it like one of the things. I don't know how much I can say about this. Like, yeah, huh?
What'd you say?
Like assault or what? Like
yeah. So like, okay, one of the situations was this girl like that he was friends with. They like she spent the night at his house or apartment or hotel, something like that, right? Like just kind of like they were just friends. Like it wasn't anything like that. And she says she woke up. I think maybe like she fell asleep on him or something like that, or like she woke up to him like masturbating with her hand, like that's that falls under the definition of like sexual assault, right?
Yeah, she didn't consent to that one.
Like she was asleep, right?
Yeah.
Like, so like that's one of those things that's like if you prosecute that, like that could very well lead to jail term, and it, like so I want. I mean, even though like I'm still trying to figure out if I'm a what's the word, prison abolitionist or whatever. But like I definitely think that they're like he did a crime and he should do the whatever that consequence is, right? But on the statutes, none of the consequences of crime is not being able to attend XYZ university, right? Like I just think that that's weird, and like I don't know, like it made me feel funny. And I mean, I haven't followed up on him or whether he's at Harvard now or whatever, but it's just like I don't know, like
it's possible.
I'm okay with it, but I don't like it.
I mean, I think like so I look at it two ways, right? Like actually the one way that maybe one way.
One answer.
So for me, okay, so either whatever you do, right, I don't feel like anything has to rise to even the level of a crime for you to suffer a certain kind of consequence. You know what I'm saying? So for instance, if I think, say you bullied someone and you're bullying, right? Like, where you made fun of someone.
Right.
And that just goes. But in another instance, you made fun of someone and that person committed suicide. Now that looks a little differently. Now you could say, well, this person said the same thing to this person, and that person, the victim, if you will, just laughed at it happened. But in the other instance, because of that consequence, right? You could say, you know what? If a school rescinds an admissions letter for that guy, you could say, I might say, okay, you know what? That's fine. What about in that other context where nothing happened, right? Where you know what I'm saying? Where so maybe like
he attempted to do something, but it didn't like he didn't do it. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you do something inappropriate,
right? Any consequence is acceptable.
Then I wouldn't say any consequences acceptable.
Like
because of consequences is just out there. Hey, sometimes you could suffer bigly for it. Sometimes you could get away with it.
Yeah, it's like it's best to just not do that.
Well, certainly.
If you could just figure out a way to just, I don't know, with stuff like that, it's like, dude, just like. Yeah,
don't
like
be a bad person.
Don't do things that are non-consensual. Yeah. Is it that hard? You could have totally played that situation differently. Look, I get you're trying to be more than friends in the situation, but committing a crime or like doing something so inappropriate that like it just I don't know.
So exactly, so a crime is a no-brainer. a crime.
Right.
But it's inappropriate whether it's a crime or not. It's
Yes.
wildly, you know.
I'm even talking. We kind of agree that this is not a crime, but is this appropriate? Like,
Yeah.
so there are consequences that you should be suffering for that. Talking about freaking, I remember there was a particular episode, right, where there was that was around when Kavanaugh was being confirmed, and all those came out that he did X, Y, or Z in high school. Now we're talking about 30 years ago in the early.
Right.
Now they interviewed some girls, high school seniors, and they asked them, like, maybe I don't remember, and how many of them were in the room, and these were high school girls, high school seniors in New York City, and they asked them, like, how many of you have had some sort of inappropriate thing done to you? All of them.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I know the answer to that.
So we're talking about high school girls, like, all of them had something done. I mean, and they were upfront about it. They were like, okay, it wasn't rape or anything, but it was like grabbing and groping and this, kinds of stuff, like, just discussion stuff.
One thing I found out, speaking of that, I talked to some female friends and they were like, yeah, every time you go out to like a club, like guys will just grab your ass. I'm like, really? Like, like stuff like that, where it's just like, huh? I mean, maybe it's not every time, but like, they were just saying it's something that happens. I was like, that happens? Doing that? I just would never even think that because I can't, but I would never think that I would even could do that.
What's scary is sort of like, I mean, I'm a woman, and so I can't like try to imagine what it would like be like to be a guy. But there are things that I'm like, in my mind, I just don't think that I would ever get away with anything bad. Like, I just don't like. So it's interesting, right? And maybe that's part of like just male privilege. Is that like the guys who do this and do this over and over again, like they know they're gonna get away with it because they do, and unfortunately, like. And that's where I think that, like, sort of to your point, like, about, like, consequence. Like, I'm okay with a consequence that isn't, the judicial consequence, right? Like if this guy didn't go to Harvard, I wouldn't say, oh, my God, this injustice happened to him. I'd be like, you sexually assault people? Whatever, as that rolls down the hill, wherever it hits you at, whether that is for, grad school admission, or you can't get to be a justice, or whatever it is, like, I'm okay with that, right? But it's sort of like, I don't think that even that like with the racism thing, right, it doesn't address the issue. Are there now men who are like, oh, I would have sexually assaulted this girl, but then I remember my homeboy, he can go to Harvard because he did this thing, so now, well, like of course that doesn't happen. But like the real, the consequences that should happen, whether that, like, in the case of a crime, that's a little bit easier. I guess when it's not like actually a crime, it's a little bit like, I'm okay with like some public embarrassment, or like, everybody finding out about it and shunning you or whatever, modern day equivalent of that there is. But so definitely.
So one thing that I thought was interesting when they asked one of these high school ladies that, I think they asked one of them, like, so if and I'm misremembering, so maybe it must have been something like somebody grabbed a girl's ass or something like that in an unwanted fashion, and the question was kind of like, okay, what is the consequence for that? Like, how long should this guy suffer that consequence? Should that be something that should follow him around for 30 years? Like, what is the line in that? Because there will be some women, presumably, that that happens to, they never think about it again, like it's not even, and there will be others that could haunt them for a long time. And what she said was, he should suffer the consequence for as long as it affects that woman.
That's hard though, because then it's sort of like, try to only assault women who will shrug it off quickly, like,
and like, I don't know, like grabbing an ass. I mean, I'm saying I don't do it without consent or anything, but for 30 years though, like I don't know. I don't know if you can get consequence for that. We gotta think about, because I mean, the same people who will say, "Oh, that person should," get consequences for 30 years, are also people who are like against like the death penalty, and they want like some type of, retribution for people who are in prisons and stuff. So it's like at some point,
right?
You have to think, okay, people aren't. We can't just peg people as criminals or degenerates or whatever for the rest of their lives. We have to give them some type of path to redemption. I mean, and that.
So an example would be, talking about Kavanaugh with Christine Blasey Ford. She talked about what Kavanaugh did that day, right? Where pushed her, like specifically, I don't really remember, but she talked about how that has affected her relationships, even with and the fact that even in their house she had to get a door installed somewhere because she was played on like that. How old is she?
Yeah,
she's in her 50s now. So now I get it, like that is where it becomes difficult. You know what I'm saying? You have mentally, you have altered this person's life with a seemingly from Kavanaugh. He said he didn't do that, or he doesn't even remember. Of course, to him it was enough to him, but to this other person who carry this around for 30 years. I mean, it's tough.
It's like I'm struggling with.
Are we gonna get canceled for this conversation? By the way,
so far, I think y'all are doing all right.
I think we're okay. No one's defended Kavanaugh.
Right. No one's defended inappropriate behavior.
You never know with this conversation.
You don't know what my next words are gonna be, right? I do think so. What I would like is immediate consequences, right? Like,
yeah, I agree.
Just because, like, even deterrence research is really like, if you grab a woman's ass at a club, I would like for you to get punched in your face in the next 10 minutes, right? Like that. If somebody grabbed me and that happened, I'd be like, oh, shrug off my back, like it's done. Like I'm over
You know what I wish happened though? I wish, like, if you were a heterosexual man, you grabbed a woman's ass, and a much bigger man comes and grabs your ass. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you do happens to you immediately. I saw this article that was like, next time you think about doing anything to a woman, ask yourself if you would do that to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like, just ask yourself if you would do that without asking him for permission.
It is, Manny. Have you been groped or grabbed inappropriately before?
I have. It's rare, and I honestly don't mind it. And
that's sort of the problem. I think that, like, some men think that women don't mind it, and so they're like, I wouldn't care if a
I would never tell. I will say, like, sometimes I think you and I lie. We've had this conversation, like, in grad school. Of course, there are times where you're like, okay, I didn't consent to that. So it does feel a little weird, but I am definitely not going to say anything would traumatize me. I think of it as like, what I think is interesting is like catcalling and stuff. I think that's ridiculous. But I will say when it's happened to me, I felt weird about it. But at the same time, very flattered. So but it doesn't happen to me often. It's happened to me like a couple of times in my life.
And maybe that's it, right? Like maybe it's sort of like when it happens, it's so infrequent.
Right. But it's a weird experience. Part of it.
No,
and I'm also bigger than that person. You know what I mean? Like, I could probably beat that person up if they tried to harm me in some way. If I was a woman who was smaller than someone who was catcalling me.
It's often a very terrifying experience. Like, for me, I feel like I'm just like, oh God, like now it's sort of like I'm in like safety mode, right? And I mean, I'm probably always in safety mode, but certainly, and I think this is such an interesting conversation. Like, I try to have conversations around these things with a lot of my male friends, because I think that just the regular day-to-day like mechanics that happen in a woman's brain, I think that the average heterosexual man does not really understand it. like like so many dates that I've been on where I'm texting like my best friend, like, "Ooh, if I get murdered, this is his name," and like jokingly, sometimes, or sometimes if it's like very, hey, I'm about to go over to someone's house and I've never been to their house before and I don't know him that well. But like just off the bat, I'm already like, if some shit go down, like, God, Lord, help me, right?
Right. But we don't even think of that. And it's like
Like,
you're joking, but you're not.
Am I gonna get laid or not? Right? Like that's really the
That's
question.
the only question.
and, and I wish that more women would rob men, so at least y'all have one more thing to worry about.
Nothing.
No one's carrying cash, so what you gonna rob him
The
for?
worst thing that can happen to a man is his feelings get hurt. That's the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen to a woman is she could be murdered. So it's very, the balance is it's in men's favor for sure.
Like my friend could probably scroll up and find all of my location pin drop. Like I very frequently will like drop my if I'm going to like someone's house or something like that, I'll drop my location. Granted, logically I know that if I'm gonna get murdered, I'm still gonna get murdered. The only question is it becomes easier to solve said murder, right? Because it's like, oh wow. Yeah. And it makes it really interesting when like like I've had conversations with guys where like I'll say, "Oh no, I'm not gonna come over." Like I remember one guy very, very clearly was like, "What you think? I'm not gonna rape you." And I was like, "Oh wow."
Whoa, never said that, dude. But now I think you are.
Right? I'm like, well, now that that's on the table, my reluctance to come to your house is now absolutely never coming to your house. Like things like that, where like.
But you can kind of understand. Like I feel like I can understand why a guy would say that too. Because if you think about it, like if you are a guy that is in tune with the stressors that women go through, like what you just described, that women are sometimes concerned, like not a lot of times concerned about
consumed. Consumed is probably the better word.
Yeah, like maybe I don't know if you get concerned, but at least. At the very least, I've heard about some folks strategizing just in terms of, okay, if this date goes this way, I'm going to call you like this. Like after 10 minutes, if you don't hear from me, then maybe I mean, it's like this elaborate plan.
No, for sure. Like very normal.
So I'm just saying, if you're a guy that's kind of like in tune with that, I can see how.
Look, no woman has ever felt more comfortable going to a man's house because he said, "Oh, don't worry, I won't rape you."
No.
Not a single woman.
Wait.
I will murder you, but I will not rape you, I promise.
No, I'm not saying you should feel comfortable going. I'm just saying that I can kind of see a universe where a guy is kind of like saying, "Look, I'm one of
the good ones." Yeah, no, again. Like I understand why the thought question.
Just don't say the word. Don't say the word rape. Let's keep that out of your mouth.
Like, don't say I won't rape you. Don't say don't worry. I won't. I mean, I can hear someone jokingly say, "Don't worry, I won't murder you." But even that is like, and all of this is contextual, right? Like it depends on how well I know you, what our mutual friends are. Like a guy I went to college with, and we have a bunch of the same friends saying, "Girl, come over, I ain't gonna murder you." Like that's not terrifying, although again based on rape stats maybe it should be whatever, but there is definitely a certain level of shit I might die that is involved in like dating and interacting with men that I think that women are just like, shit, I might die, but
it's like an extreme sport. It's very risky.
It really is, and like, and that's why I find it fascinating when men and I mean not that fascinating because men can be obtuse, but like act like it's not a real thing, right? Like I understand. Like my thing is if I want to come over, I'm eventually, do the mental gymnastics necessary to like go, right? But it's also like give me a minute, like let me figure that out. Your little comments aren't making it easier. It's like it's not helping. It's like, no, it's just don't worry. I'm gonna figure out which of my homegirls. I'm gonna drop my location pin to text your address, give them your name and last name and all of these things, right? But anyway, I feel like this topic is getting morbid. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
more than y'all.
I mean,
Just,
just
it's just a,
just thinking about it, like it is crazy that just the fact that we are in this universe where there is this actuarial possibility that
like,
you know
just it's a,
get more just for going on a date, or at the very least that there are so many women that are concerned
yeah,
enough about it that this is a point of conversation.
yeah,
I'm gonna switch topics a little bit
yeah.
to depressed. Manny, do you know this comedian called um what's her name? Like I'm blanking out on her. She's kind of I don't even want to say she's funny. Let me Nikki Glazer.
Yeah. I know her.
So, Aya, do you know who that person is?
No, I was gonna say, Manny, like literally all comedians. I feel
Pretty
like
much. Yeah. I watch like stand up all the time. So I've actually seen her live.
What are your thoughts about her?
So I heard her stuff on like Spotify, and I think maybe like quickly on Netflix. I watched a little bit, and I thought she was decently funny. Like had some good joke writing, and so I actually went to a comedy club just to watch her. And I went by myself because Geneva was out of town, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
what's her shtick?
She's a white blonde-haired woman. Talks a lot about her insecurities. She talks about sex and I mean, I've listened to her on like podcasts. She's been on like the Joe Rogan Experience, but I've also seen her on other comedians podcasts, or heard her on other comedians podcasts. But did she have some joke lie that you saw that was related to this conversation or no?
No.
Or is she canceled?
The Argos were at work again, and they had recommended
on Netflix.
Not on Netflix. I don't even watch Netflix. It's just YouTube. So,
oh wow, okay.
So and she has a podcast, right? She has a podcast, and she would just bring different people on, and they would talk about whatever. Yeah, I mean, hashtag. I've never seen her in comedy, but I've seen her in interviews, like I show me even on Rogan. I saw some clips. I can see how she would be funny. You're right. Like her stick is about her dating. I mean, she talks a lot about.
So that was. I'm gonna have to check it out. I think that like dating humor is. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of content.
There's a lot there. She's
a lot about it. She talks a lot about it. So that's why I remember this, because I mean the most recent clip that I saw was of her discussing with this other comedian who I don't remember her name. She's also, I guess, popular. But maybe I can look at it while I talk.
This is embarrassing. Was it Whitney Cummings? Because I think I saw there.
Cummings.
Yeah.
People don't like Whitney. I watched the show and I liked it, but people don't like Whitney.
You don't like her?
This is embarrassing.
I liked the show. I mean, I don't really watch stand up, so like I don't know if her like stand up stuff is.
Yeah, she's fun. I mean, I've listened to her podcast as well. I
got a podcast.
Yeah, a lot of comedians have podcasts, so I've listened to her stuff, and because she will interview other comedians that I'm interested in, so as long as I don't detest the host, I'll listen to you interview whoever, and she's not bad. I mean, I think she's a decent podcaster, and she's a funny comedian. She's very successful as a comedian.
Well, even this interview of them, this conversation between both of them that I saw, with the comments just seemed a lot funnier. Like she's like.
I'm gonna have to find that episode and listen to it.
Yeah. No, it was. I'm pretty sure I listened to the whole thing. It was actually pretty interesting. But that's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. You should just start naming comedians and see if I know them or not.
I have one. I mean, it's the only one I can think of right now because Chris Gethard is that how you say it?
I know who that is. I haven't watched much of his stuff, but I know who that is.
So one of and other than Freakonomics, I really do have a very wide range of podcasts that I listen to. But he has one that it's not really a regular comedian podcast. I think it's called Beautiful Anonymous.
Okay.
And I really like it. I don't listen to it much anymore, but here and there when I do, I like it. So essentially, what it's a really interesting concept. It's literally, I think that him being a comedian could not be less related to this podcast. He has people call in anonymously, so like they don't give any like identifying information, and they just talk about like their lives for an hour, like and I think partly because I think that like random people can be very very interesting. So it'll be somebody like calling about like I haven't listened in a while, so it's like it's hard to remember sort of the stories. But like just a random person, there's an hour you can talk to him about like literally whatever. Like sometimes it gets really really dark, and people are talking about things that like they haven't told their wife who's in the next room or like whatever, right? And it's a little deep, and he talks about like his like mental health struggles, if you will, or whatever. And so it's kind of an interesting little like thing. But here and there, like he cracks jokes here and there. It's a little funny, but like it's not at all about comedy. That's like
Right. Yeah.
the only comedian whose podcast I listen. Well, and Clint Collie, did I say?
Clint Cooley. I don't think I.
The advice from a fuckboy.
You know
what?
what?
I love that podcast.
Let me name some comedians and see if Manny will know them. So,
Okay.
I go die.
Oh my god!
You can't just name Nigerian villages live. You need to.
Oh my lord! You're not here naming Nigerian comedians.
I go die. Okay.
Basket mouth.
Are you a basket mouth?
No, I did one time. I did Google like Nigerian comedians, and I YouTubed one. I have no idea what his name is, but like I watched just like not even 5 minutes probably of the show, but it was just funny to see people laugh. And he was speaking, I guess it was English broken. It was whatever local Nigerians would understand. So I couldn't understand any of it. There was some English in it, but like them cracking up, it was fascinating to watch. But I could not tell you this person's name at all.
Do you know Brother Shaggy?
Who?
Brother Shaggy.
Nah, wait, who was that? Shaggy? You mean like it wasn't me? Shaggy from It Wasn't Me?
He's just fucking with you. It's a Nigerian.
I mean,
it's a Nigerian. But Shaggy is actually.
Y'all know who I'm talking about, though, right? Like Shaggy from It Wasn't Me. It wasn't me.
Is Shaggy American? I feel like in my mind
he's from Jamaica.
West Indian. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like he's from the islands.
I thought he was born in like New York.
I think maybe his parents are from Jamaica, but he definitely can go into a Jamaican accent and like
kind of like Busta Rhymes, huh?
Can Busta Rhymes do that?
Oh, Busta Rhymes' parents are Jamaican straight up.
Oh, I didn't even know that. You learn something new every day. Biggie's parents were Jamaican, so I did know that about Biggie. His mom, his dad kind of left him, and I think his dad maybe even stayed in Jamaica. I think Biggie was born in New York, but I feel like his mom moved to New York like
straight up. Like I've seen
Yeah. I did not know Busta Rhymes was Jamaican though. I did not know that.
I mean, Busta Rhymes was born in. I think he was born
in Kingston,
in Staten Island. I don't know, but something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, actually, let me look that up just to be but go ahead just to be sure.
But who were we talking about? Shaggy. Shaggy is Jamaican though. Someone at the very least, his parents are Jamaican, but I think he may have even lived in Jamaica at some point.
Yeah. So, but I was right. Busta Rhymes was born in Brooklyn, and both of his parents are Jamaican.
I had no idea.
I mean, but if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right?
There are plenty of Jamaicans in New York.
Right.
There's plenty, and yes, I can see that too. That even the way he talks and all fast, I'd love to hear him go in like straight patois or something. Yeah, that would be hot. He should do that. I don't know why. Where's that track, Busta?
I've seen like
deep on YouTube,
kind of like talking.
Okay,
but if he also grew up here, he might not like.
Yeah, he might not have it.
No,
he could probably imitate his parents. That might help.
Right.
But
like
yo, speaking of Jamaicans, have y'all know Skip Marley, Bob Marley's grandson?
Man, doesn't he have like 45 grandkids that are
Yeah, he has like 45
Why do
kids,
I
man. I
know
think he
that
has
name?
800 grandkids, or
Oh
something
my
like that.
Jesus.
No, I don't know, but he has a lot of kids, and so, but anyway, so Skip Marley is the son of Bob Marley's daughter. I don't remember which daughter, but anyway, he looks and sounds a lot like Bob Marley. He's very talented, and he's probably 21 or so. But anyway, look him up. He has some really good music.
I
out.
mean, does he really speak like Bob Marley? Because a lot of his grandkids are like born in Florida, but for whatever reason,
I not speak. I mean, like sing. So I'm sure if I heard him in an interview, he wouldn't sound like Bob Marley. I had no idea what Bob Marley was saying in interviews. Like so, but his Skip Marley definitely has a. But it's interesting, even though he grew up, I think he grew up in Florida, but like he still speaks. He doesn't. You wouldn't think he's American. You would definitely think he's from Jamaica. Same with like Damian Marley. He doesn't sound like he's straight American. I mean, he sounds more American than his dad, but
Marley was actually born in Kingston, so go figure.
Skip?
Yeah. He sounds Jamaican. So I mean, I can understand him better than Bob, but not a whole lot. So
I'm gonna have to look him up.
He was born in Kingston. He was born in Kingston, but raised in Miami. So there is no way.
He sounds like Bob Marley.
I do.
Maybe as a shtick. Yeah.
Maybe as a shtick.
Yeah.
It could be. He probably sounds like me behind closed doors.
Right, he's like, I'm like, I have to.
He went to like boarding schools in Connecticut.
I'm on the Wikipedia page, right? They're like, born in Kingston but raised in Miami. Growing up, he taught himself how to play piano, drums, guitar. I'm like, get out of here! You didn't teach yourself shit. Like, family.
Like you're from a musical dynasty family.
I mean,
that is all your family does. That's what
he's trying to have a story, man. He's trying to be the guy who taught himself.
Yeah, man. He's
not trying to be I went to music school 2 months after I was born.
Yeah. It's like you went to the Berkeley School of Music or something. I don't know, but that is it. But I'm telling you, listen to one of his interviews and tell me if y'all think it's real. But he does not sound American. He sounds Jamaican.
Okay. We're gonna put you to the test in a second.
Oh Lord.
Skip, man.
Play that fucking music.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's definitely you definitely feel the vibes from his grandfather, and it's nice to see, because it's nice to see a family where like a lot of people, they carry on a certain type of talent. We were talking, Geneva and I, about the Jacksons, like Michael Jackson and all them, and like how wildly more talented Michael Jackson was than all of his brothers, and it was always weird to me that like no one else came even close. Like if it weren't for Michael, they'd still be in Gary, Indiana. Janet is the second, but I feel like if she wasn't from that family, she wouldn't be Janet Jackson. Like she needed that platform first.
All right, yo, hold on a second. Let's listen to Skip. I don't know if this is an interview or not, but maybe this Skip.
Oh, this is a song. Yeah, I like this one.
Wait.
Thank you, man. Yeah, man, it's a blessing, Yeah,
Get your ass out of here.
People gravitate towards it.
No many people
Is that how you look at things as far as the connections go?
Let's see what he says.
With the music?
Yeah, cause it's for the people, man. We talk to the people, so we get the message across. You know what I mean?
No, so this is just faking, right? He's faking it. So, like,
love.
In the end, love. In the end, the love wins. That's what I always say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, love.
I wanted to talk, and that's why I was so excited to connect with you, because I've been seeing from when you and her was kind of, making the rounds. I saw you on Good Morning America, amongst other places, and I just love your energy, brother. I just love the energy and the positive message that you bring, with not only through the music, but just in your being. You know what I mean? And the idea that it's infectious, and it's something we really, really need.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Times in the world, and I just want to ask, where does that come from for you? Because I know you come from a long line of love and fighting for rights and everything.
It come from there, it come from there, but it's just within us,
Yeah, laughing. Leave this man alone.
I mean, but you know what I mean, though. His voice sounds like Bob Marley, whether he's faking or not. He does a great Bob Marley impression. Let's put it that way, because he has his voice.
I mean, I'm not gonna say he's faking it. If that's how he talks, that's how he talks.
He's consulting with the ancestors. And speaking of ancestors, have y'all seen?
I'm sorry, what?
Ma Rainey, the movie, the Netflix movie. What the hell is it called? Chadwick's last movie.
No, but I just saw a preview for that, and I was like, that looks pretty good because it has Viola Davis and Chadwick.
Night. It's good. Yeah, it's good.
So that's on. Is it on Netflix?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a Netflix original.
Okay.
I think it's actually. I'm
yeah,
not
I think it was it was a Netflix commercial that I saw.
Apparently, it's like it's in the theaters too, which I was like, I don't know why I would like. It's on Netflix. Like, why would I get in my car and drive to the theater to go watch it? But it's really good. And it didn't make me as sad as I thought it would, which I'm glad. Because of
Chadwick.
Yeah, because I mean, like I cried for days, like after he died. Like, oh my lord, like that was rough. But it was really good. It was that what?
Do you typically cry over celebrity deaths, or was it particularly him?
No, it was Chadwick. I don't know what it was. Like I mean, I watched The Five Bloods.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah, this was all. I think this is his first new thing I'm watching after his past. But I watched that, and then A Message from the King, which is on Netflix. It's one of his older stuff. I had watched those like recently, and I don't know, like it's weird because like I'm like I don't have any special reason to. I mean, I love Black Panther. I watched it like 4 times. I guess I thought about like just how young he is. Like, I mean, I don't know what it was. I'm not. Yeah, like yeah.
It's a sad story.
Usually a crier. Like, I mean, I'm a crier, but I'm not usually a crier over celebrities. Like, I don't think I've cried over another celebrity. Yeah, or even like somebody.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. Like that bothered me for a while. And
his death, yeah.
I've never seen Black Panther, so
really.
I'm sorry, what?
No.
Just want to go watch it right now. What are you doing?
I mean, there's been a lot of problematic statements. You haven't seen Chappelle, Io. This is the Chappelle show, and Lai hasn't seen Black Panther. I need y'all both. Y'all both have homework right after the podcast.
But listen, but the Chappelle show is different, right? Like, how many episodes is that? Like, that's a lot.
You haven't seen one episode?
Well, okay, I've seen bits, right? Like a random YouTube skit. There's the thing about him being a crackhead. I mean, I don't know if he does that multiple times, but I've seen something.
Tyrone is Bigums. Yeah. Well, you have to. I'm gonna at least show you the Rick James sketch. You have to see that. Okay. We'll show you Rick James in the Prince sketch, and then we'll be okay. And like, go watch Black Panther 4 times.
Yeah, like
wear a dashiki while you're doing it. Well, I don't know why you haven't done this.
Weird. Like I saw Black Panther in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, that would be an amazing experience.
It was like there was nothing like it because Nigerians do not do that whole sit in the movie theater quietly like black people everywhere. So like there are people who be like, oh, hell God, you got a lot of that. It was a lot of fun. I loved it, and then I think it was like I saw it like on a Thursday in Lagos, and then I was flying back to Houston on a Friday, and Saturday a friend was like, yo, let's go see Black Panther, and I was like, let's go. And so I saw it like, you know, so it's like I'm watching a Thursday in Lagos, I'm watching on a Saturday in Houston in a mostly black audience, and then I think I saw it one more time, and then I've watched it since it's been on Netflix. Yeah, like in fact,
no, don't get me. The only reason why I haven't seen it is not really about Black Panther. It's just me and movies. I have not seen a movie in years.
Interesting. I got you.
It's not about Black Panther. It's just that I don't watch movies. See, I mean, the idea of sitting somewhere for like 90 minutes, 2 hours is insufferable to me. Like,
what? But you watch, how many hours of YouTube do you watch in one sitting?
I actually am gonna side with Lai here. I get part of it. I had this conversation the other day with Geneva
I
about
love
me
movies.
not watching movies. I watch more than I'm sure Lies watched, but
Yeah.
I understand the sentiment of if it's going to be 2 hours, I need to really.
Nah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do it or whatnot. So even in the past, when I would watch movies, so whenever I went to the theaters, I would either sleep off, doze off at the theater, or if I'm watching it at home, I will watch it in 30 minutes, like almost like a show, like 30 minutes now, maybe like tomorrow watch another 30 minutes.
That's
Mhm.
so interesting.
I
3 days. Like I
That's
don't have
Because
that.
I watch movies, like, and I mean, my attention span is short, but I watch
don't have
movies.
that attention span at all. Like I won't follow it. I'm not gonna follow. After like 15 minutes,
That's crazy.
I don't get the story plot anymore. Whatnot.
What's wrong with you?
But guess what? I will watch documentaries though. I will watch.
See, yeah,
he
nah.
watches 12-hour-long documentaries though at a
Like,
time.
that's wild. That is wild.
I can't follow the story plot for
Right, but this-
for Toy Story, but I'll watch a 12-hour documentary
about
on
the history
Freakonomics
of the world.
and-
I'll watch a documentary on string theory, like on some.
right on like some
I mean, I
obscure
guess that's just like the
astrophysics.
nerdy. That's the nerdiness.
It's just what you're into. I totally
Yeah.
I'm not 100% over on Lie's side, but I understand that sentiment of just like 2 hours is a long time, but I can watch YouTube for 7 hours before I go to sleep. But it's just like random videos of shit, and I'm learning about stuff,
See, so, like,
entertained, laughing.
Like,
Yeah,
I like almost never watch and people watching YouTube is fascinating to me because I just like don't
what I watch on YouTube.
so if there's something I want to cook that I don't like, I want to see someone else make it, maybe I'll like look it up on YouTube. But like I use YouTube like very like targeted, right? Like I don't meander around it. Like I go find or like go like hair stuff. Like if I'm looking for like if I'm about to buy a hair product and I'm trying to see like what other like YouTubers think of it. Like it's a very, very specific use case. Like whereas like a good friend of mine will like, oh, did you see like she watches like and that's one thing I don't like random people who like are not that much more interesting than me in my opinion. Like I'm not gonna watch you on YouTube. Like what do you like? I don't want to see your house. Like I don't want to hear about your life in Vietnam. Like unless I'm coming to Vietnam and then I'm just gonna go. I'm just not gonna watch it. But I don't know. I don't get it.
But we do want people out there to listen to our podcast, so please do listen to us. We are more interesting than whoever's listening. No, I'm just kidding. But but people will listen and watch all types of stuff.
Yeah. No, and there's a guy I used to date.
Wait, back up.
Question mark is the asterisk.
Wait. Why did you say date like that? Like this? I just like it.
Look, see, I can't even talk too much on this podcast because I don't know Daddy might listen, but
I understand the context.
yeah, it's just asterisks. Like anyway, I mean, he'll probably never. Yeah, I'm like 99% sure he'll never listen to this. So I could talk shit about him. Like he's an idiot, right? Like it just is. Like it's fine. It's not even like in a like this kind of way, but I think that like he's stupid.
How was that? I don't mean this to offend you, but you're an idiot. Like, but in a good way.
Like,
You're
it's not
stupid.
like,
You know.
normally we call people stupid like to insult them, but like as opposed to like where it's like there's probably an IQ point where like someone is like clinically.
So you're saying so? How is the? So this isn't. So if I'm him, I'm insulted right now. From what you said.
But only because like you're supposed to be smarter. You probably think of yourself as like smart enough. But anyway, not it is what it is. But I just remember, and this is also like when I was working at the firm and like my life sucked and whatever. And so like I used to go hang out with him after work. And his like his thing that he did after his work for fun was to watch YouTube videos
Let me
of
go.
cracking. Wait, what?
Is this person lie? Is this what is? He hated movies.
Right.
He had no attention
Brilliant.
span.
No. this guy. I mean, he would watch YouTube videos of crackheads like doing random shit. Like it. When
So I think. Look, I don't judge what people watch.
I do.
Let me explain. The kind of movies.
You about to tell me how that's an intellectual experiment?
Like, so the more thoughtful or complicated the movies, the less likely I'm gonna get. I don't get movies, right? The way you go having a conversation and they cut off to something. Like, I'm that guy that is lost. Like, what just happened? Like, I'm gonna ask questions like, why are they saying that? Oh, so like
I love film.
I'm so spacey. That movie called Inception?
Oh my gosh! Well, that's the worst of those types of movies.
That's not a good example.
Everyone hates that movie.
I'm just saying, like that movie. I was there. I actually tried. I tried. I'm like, I don't know what the heck. But it seemed like everyone I talked to afterwards got it. I was so bothered with that movie.
You're like, am I stupid?
You're gonna watch it again tonight.
Am I intellectually inept?
I mean, I knew I wasn't gonna get it. So I was so bothered that I couldn't follow it. I didn't get it. That I had to go read about it. Like, okay, what was happening? And even when I read it, I still didn't understand what the heck was going on.
Nah, I will.
So now we're a little concerned. But
I will Wikipedia a whole movie before, like in the middle of watching it, because I'm like, look, there's too much going on. Like, what's gonna happen? Also, usually when I start to get scared that like a character I like is gonna die, I'm like, I need to find out. Because I just need to like prepare my mind, because I can't deal with all these emotions.
So the kind of movies that I like, though, if I were to watch a movie, are like
would it be crackheads just dancing and doing stuff?
Like comedy-ish type movies, or I like some animation type stuff like Madagascar. Stuff that you don't have to think about.
Did you see the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Nah, that's too complicated. I'm not gonna watch that.
It's really good.
Nah,
look, people like you frustrate me because I know there's nothing I can do to like convince you.
Nah,
that is annoying though, when like you've seen something and you want someone else to watch it, but you know they're not gonna watch it. You're like, how can I put what I know into your mind? I want you to experience it.
Like, I would handcuff you to like a chair and make you watch that. And
you'd be zoning out.
Like whatever drugs you can do, like I'll pour caffeine on you, make sure you can't sleep.
Son, it's not gonna work. So yeah, like I don't.
Spider-Verse is so good. Have you seen it, man?
I don't watch superhero movies like that. It's just I'm very specific with my movies too. I'm very I will watch some movies, but I'm specific. I don't watch a lot of.
So I wasn't really into like Marvel and all of that until probably, I don't know, maybe before Black Panther. Certainly before Black Panther. But now, like I like earlier, I think maybe end of last year, earlier this year, I like made a list of all of them, like the entire sort of story, and I've watched. I think I've watched everything but the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk one, because everybody was just like, it's not that great and whatever. But that I think is a but I think I actually like. I'm not like a film nerd. Like I don't know the history. I don't even know what technically the definition of a movie or a film is, or feature film and all of that junk. But like I think it's some of it has also come from like I have very strong feelings about like Nigerian movies, and now like just movies across the Black diaspora. Like I was gonna ask this earlier, but since you don't watch movies and you have specific interests, you may not even be interested in this. But Small Axe is on Amazon Prime Video. It's a collection of movies. I think they drop them intermittently, so it's like they're technically episodes, but they're really not episodes. They're like separate, distinct movies. But they focus on like I say West. I don't know if West Indies or West Indian is a derogatory term. I don't know, but like people from the Caribbean area.
I hope it's not. I still say that. I think West Indian sounds pretty. If you can get canceled for West Indian now, Jesus.
It's just one of those words. I'm like, I don't know that I've heard anyone use it, but
no, that's true.
I think it includes more places than the Caribbean, but I'm not sure.
But West Indian sounds so much cooler. Like to say I'm from West
Right?
Indies. Like
No,
you sound
he's
you sound so
Indian.
incredibly
Right.
exotic and cool. I
And
would
it
think
makes
it's
me makes me think of that population closer to like West African, because I'm like West Indians, West Africans, like hashtag West. Anyway, I don't know. It makes sense in my head. The small acts. It's about like Indian people in the UK.
Mhm.
And so like the first one is sort of like it's a type of movie that I feel like we haven't ever seen. It's if you think about like 1960s like civil rights movies, but like in the UK, right? And so one, the accents like Letitia Wright, who definitely is hashtag halfway canceled now because she's an
She
idiot.
is? Why? What'd she do?
Because she was like posting some anti-vaxxer stuff on Twitter.
Who?
She's so good. I would have no idea who
Surely-
this is. Oh, this would be
Surely
Shuri.
her black actor, which you would have to watch to know.
Yeah. He was also on Black Mirror, an episode of Black
Yeah.
Mirror.
Yeah, the British.
Yeah, she's from the Barbados, maybe. I'm not sure exactly where, but she's
I know her. Yeah, you said something about vaccines.
yeah.
Look,
and
people are
she's-
gonna say dumb stuff, but she's a good actor though, so let's not
No, I
forget.
Well, I think that more than her statement or whatever, what annoyed me was the fact that like she follows the tweet like with "I know y'all gonna cancel me for this." I was like, "Shut up!" Like, you're annoying. Like I'm obviously gonna like. She's a black woman. Like she could. There's really very little. There's very little she can do.
we gonna support you, Letitia. No, but I really do think she's great.
Yeah, I know she's a phenomenal actress. And so she's in the first one. It's sort of like if you imagine like a civil rights movement kind of stuff with like, I don't know. It's just it's the kind of stories that like I never even thought to like want to watch a movie about, because like what did the fight for like black liberation look like in the UK, right? Because their black people were just different from us, right? And then like their fight was different, and so it was just like fascinating to me. And then like the second one, I've only seen two of them. The second one is about like a dance hall kind of like they like the one night, right? These kids like go dancing at like a house, and they're also all West Indian. So like the accents one are just like the way they talk. Like by the time I'm done with the whole series, I'm definitely gonna have a good little fake accent going. But the way they talk, it's like music. I'm just like, what you? Okay, it's just like sing-songy, whatever.
No, I do like that. I feel like Li's bored though because we're talking about a movie. That's the look.
That's why, like, and I think it's because I'm in this space where, like, and I literally like tweeted about this like last night. Like, as a Nigerian who's also American, I feel like my film, like my movie experience, right? Or if you think about them as stories, right? Not even really movies. Like the stories that I see often reflect, I'm either watching Nigerian movies or American movies, right? So I can connect with both of those. I mean, like, like random rich white Americans, maybe I can't really connect to them, but like I can see that it reflects something, right? Whereas like, and I'm supposed to try to get into Korean movies, even though like reading subtitles is a lot of work, and I'm not sure when I'm ready for that. Although I did see Parasite, which I thought was. Have you seen Parasite, Lahi?
Heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's really good.
That's too much work. And when you start adding all that stuff,
a lot of work.
I did watch the first season of Narcos, about Pablo Escobar, that like dramatic series. It was actually pretty good. And we ended up going to Colombia and stuff. I think it's probably because I watched that show. I was like, I became interested in Colombia.
You're like, you go give me some of that cocaine?
Yeah, no, but it was, but
cocaine, buddy.
I know, but no, it's not there anymore, or I don't know where it is. That dude made so much money. But anyway, no, the cocaine's there, but like his operation is
right.
Spoiler alert, he's not alive. But when that thing was popping though, oh my gosh, was he making a lot of money? That was crazy.
Apparently, rats were eating what like $1 billion.
They were eating like $1 billion. Like rats would, eat $1 billion of his money because they couldn't figure out where to put it. Like they would just put it in like underground, and like they would lose like $1 billion because they ate it. When we were there, we went on like this tour of the city of Medellin. And the tour guide wouldn't say his name because that's how impassioned people get when they hear him. They'll either get excited about him or they'll want to beat you up if you say his name. Like people, he's a very polarizing figure because he killed a lot of people, but then he did some things for like the poor communities. He would give money and houses and stuff. I think more he's more negatively viewed, but like how like kids will glorify over here like like gangsters and like Scarface and all that. Like he's that like he'll be on t-shirts. It's like there too, so it's confusing. But she would not say his name. She called him Voldemort, and she's like, everybody knows who I'm talking about, right? Because she had like a microphone, and when she was walking around the city and talking to us, she didn't want to scream his name out.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm not trying to start fights.
Yeah, exactly. So we were like, no, we know what you're talking about. We know what you're talking about. But that was a wild experience. We got to see where he was killed too, like go to that neighborhood. It was like this random, non-assuming neighborhood.
Who killed him? I don't know the story at all.
I think the police killed him. They finally got him, and he was hiding out, and he was like on top of a rooftop. But when you go there, it's just this tiny house, and it's like, dang, that is where it is though, because it looks like it did in the TV series. But anyway. I'm sorry, Lai's bored as hell because he's just.
I'm thinking about OnlyFans.
You're just thinking about OnlyFans.
Yeah. You think about your OnlyFans page? What's your username, Lai? I'm just saying. I might pay for some stuff. What you got?
Yeah.
I haven't created a username yet. I mean, I actually a page. No. I logged on, like I created an account to log in, but it seems like for you to actually see anything on there, you have to like put in your credit card or
I mean, how else they gonna charge you? What you think this is? It's not YouTube.
Yeah, you thought it was free. If OnlyFans was free, a lot of people would be on OnlyFans. Well, no one would do it because they wouldn't get paid, but. If the same content was there and people could just look at it, it would kind of defeat the purpose, but everybody would be on it.
To be honest, like I mean, there are some free content on there, but
it's not the good stuff.
Yeah, I was just like,
it's just I don't know what would even be free, like how to fix your sink or something.
Well, I bet some people have like their little like teasers, right? That's like,
that's free. Yeah, maybe.
I do know that some of the what's the word creators on OnlyFans, like now I'm like opening up OnlyFans on my computer. Some of them will like do specials for like a subscription, so that way because they'll have like $3-5 a month subscription, which to me I'm like, that's not much. But then the idea is that like get you for cheap and then you come back for more, I guess. But did y'all hear about the EMT who has OnlyFans and people like went nuts?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
What did y'all think about that?
I saw something very quick. I mean, look, hey, again, I'm for people doing whatever they got to do. I mean, I saw AOC posted something about it, and she was just like, the only thing that's ridiculous about this is that she has to get 2 jobs. So I kind of generally agree with that sentiment. But if that's what you want to do, I'm not, hey, do whatever you got to do. But it is kind of ridiculous that she has, if she's put in a position where she feels like she has to do it to make money, which I guess is why a lot of people are on there. But I don't know.
So like I read a little bit about her commenting because like she was worried if she was going to lose her job because like essentially she didn't give this, like I think that whoever interviewed her from the New York Post, she just seemed to feel like they kind of like had all these facts and it's essentially outed her, and she she wasn't out there like that. And I don't know if that means that she doesn't put her face in her stuff or exactly what it means, but I think that like she essentially says that like they played her to get all this information from her, and then like kind of put all the stuff about her out there, and she was worried about getting fired and all that. But I just thought it was interesting that, like, is it because she's an EMT? Like, it seems like there's sort of a teacher-esque kind of like vibe given to it, right? Like the same way that, like, we know that if a middle school teacher had an OnlyFans, it would be a big deal, right? Like,
you know how much money she would make, though? Like, all of her students would, like,
that would.
I can't even imagine, like, how much
Lord.
money, like, a young middle school teacher would make if she had an OnlyFans. I just can't even imagine.
I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there are some. They're all.
And hopefully, the thing is, their students don't know. But if their students ever found out,
Look, them kids. I mean, parents too. Parents. I bet you there's some parents.
There's parents, whoever knows that person, they'd be on. That person would do really, really well. But like an EMT though, you should be able to do. I don't see what the big deal is. Like,
right, like, I'm
who cares?
That's not a role that we think of as like.
Yeah, they tried to shame, it was ridiculous. I mean, yeah, they tried to shame her. I still don't understand the point of that article.
I didn't understand that part, that they tried to shame her, or they tried to. There was some concern that she might get fired. I didn't understand that piece of it. I didn't even know that happened. But if that happened, I think that's ridiculous.
I'm trying to find the article itself, but the article now is.
They deleted the article. So
good for them.
So it was New York Post. Because they got so much backlash for it. So it was almost like, what was the point of this article? Like, she wasn't
right.
She wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was just a random person from West Virginia. So she's from West Virginia.
Right.
And she's a $15 an hour person, an EMT in New York City. And I mean, you can leave. I don't think you can leave on $30 an hour in New York City. So I'm like, even if she was a millionaire, right? And she's on
right, why does it even matter? I mean, obviously we know why it matters, right? Because
I thought they were just trying to tell people, like, yo, this chick's on OnlyFans. I thought it was like an advertisement.
I
think go ahead, like.
No, she's really pretty. Like,
she's very cute.
Yeah, and she.
I mean, obviously.
I think she's like her dad, or one of her parents' side of the family is Chinese, and she kind of talked about how she's the only mixed kid in the city that she grew up in.
Where she grew up,
right? She's from West Virginia. That's probably true.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was probably the most interesting thing about her, but I don't really find that interesting either. But again, she's just this random person that, they just decided to write about. I think the reason why New York, the publication wrote about her is, one, they just wanted to get it was clickbaity, right? And she's good looking, and she's an EMT, and like a whole. They probably helped her out. Well,
she took down her OnlyFans. I don't know if she's put it back up yet, but she took it down afterwards.
She better put that thing back up. She knows.
Listen, I'm
good.
Like,
shoot, everybody knows who you are now. Shoot.
So there's a quote from her, I think from her Instagram, that says, "Let me be very clear. I did not want the New York Post to run this article, much less use my name. When the interviewer first interviewed me, he did not tell me what this was about until after I disclosed most of my background. He did not include in his article that I started crying on the phone when he finally did tell me what he was inquiring about." So I think that, like, they found her page and stuff, and then decided to write an article about her, reached out to her. She didn't really understand, like, what was, why this conversation was even happening, and what the interview, what the goal of the article would be about. And so I think, like, that's some of it, right? Like, they, somebody is like, "Oh, I found this girl on OnlyFans and she's actually an EMT," and then decides to write the article that way. So I didn't see the article itself, but like, they were like calling her family, asking them for statements, all of that stuff. But it's a very strange, like, Americans are weird about sex workers, which, even though they consume sex workers' creations, whether that's from sex to, like, OnlyFans and porn and all of that, but people are just like weird about it. And I don't get it, especially because like OnlyFans is the idea is this, it's this empowering place, right? Like it's like you get to like determine how much people are gonna pay to access your stuff, as opposed to like, you know, I don't really know how Pornhub works, but I imagine that there's some exploitation that happens there. And so OnlyFans is supposed to be this place where like there is less exploitation, but of course, then it means people are gonna talk shit about having OnlyFans, even though I'm like, look, if your bills are getting paid from OnlyFans and you actually get to feel like you get to control like who sees your stuff, it's like, how is that literally not the best thing ever?
Right.
And it's not, you know, for those who are like, I don't want my kids seeing, okay, well, your kids, don't let them have credit cards, I guess, or whatever, right? It's not like it's on a billboard.
You know, talking about
Yeah.
parents that are quote unquote concerned about what their kids do. Like I sometimes, like I remember growing up when, you know, you playing soccer was something you got in trouble for.
Right.
Wait, what do you mean got in trouble for
That
playing?
doesn't make sense to you. You're like, wait, but what, guys?
Yeah, wait, what happened in Nigeria? Were you guys
Nigerian
abused? What-
parents, let me tell you, because everything was an issue. Like, I think the Nigerian parents, I mean, I think maybe a lot of, from what I hear, like, about the Black diaspora, right? Like, when I see, like, you know, Jamaicans and, you know, Zimbabweans talk about their parents, I think Black parents just don't believe that you should, like, have fun. And I think Nigerian parents are, like, the sort of the worst about this. Like, your parents, like, it's like, why are you playing? Like, go and read a book. If you finish your homework, go and do more work. Go and read more books. It's like, look, like, what?
That is hilarious. Getting in trouble for playing soccer. That's like encouraged over here. I feel like you know, you're being active. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
So that was what I was going to get at, because, you know, when you do have, you know, some of these folks that actually now break out of just playing in the streets and it becomes
Right.
so things like, you know, musicians, of course, it's going to be a super small percentage of them that become successful, but the ones that do become successful, it's just interesting how, you know, how that turns to something else. So there is this, you know, so Nigerian society, right, is super homophobic. Like they passed all this laws.
Super.
You said what?
I said super.
Yeah, super homophobic. And a couple of years ago, they passed all this anti-homophobic or anti like these homophobic laws and whatnot, anti-gay laws, legislation, and all that stuff. But it's interesting. There is this popular. I don't know.
You talk about my girl. Except I think she recently tweeted that she's not a girl. I don't know.
I'm trying to.
You talking about Bob Risky?
Yeah. So
yeah.
okay. First, I found out Nigerians can't play soccer. Now this is Barbara Brisky. Who? What?
Bob. So like Bob Risky, like Bob who takes risks. Yeah.
Oh, Bob. Okay.
And it's. I think I will just use the pronoun they, because it's actually really not clear to me what gender they identify as, which they're a very interesting person. So they were born a man.
Okay.
From my understanding, nothing has changed physically. But they dress as a woman.
Okay.
And like, there's this, so it's this weird confusion one, right? For it, like, because I have a lot of friends in Nigeria who are in the LGBT community or are, you know, affiliated or whatever, right? Like, and it's such an interesting thing even in that community, because it's not clear what Bobrisky identifies as. Because so there was a time where like somebody said something to them and were like, bro, you know, blah blah blah. And the response is, you know, it's a Yoruba sentence that says "Tani bro," like who's your bro, right? And so all of like all of the like, you know, progressive people were like, Bobrisky identifies as a woman, so the appropriate pronoun is she, right? And so everybody's been saying that. And then very recently, they said something about like I'm not a girl, and it's like you're saying we try to like we want to use the right pronoun, but you're not even letting us. And there's some people who feel that Bobrisky is because Bobrisky would like talk shit about women, like, and then talk about like stealing your man. And it's like, look, what's your deal?
So
I think. Go ahead.
So this person is just a popular person on like Twitter, or they have like a
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
channel or Instagram or whatever. They're just social media presence.
Like,
Yeah,
like,
I think there are movies.
think about Paris Hilton, like
Okay.
what
Yeah.
it really does, right? Like just a popular person, that kind of person, like a party socialite, I guess.
And is this person wealthy and they live in Nigeria?
I wouldn't say wealthy.
Or not wealth, but this. So why is this person what is?
Popular. Why?
So I mean, there's no other famous Nigerian man who dresses as a woman, who puts makeup on, whose face is beat, who's got the hair, who's doing all of that, right? Like, there's no one like that, right? So in one sense, they're the most,
well-known,
high profile, right?
And what you have to understand is, Nigerian society is super conservative, right? So for someone to be outwardly being
like lashes.
it's gonna
Bob is very risky. He's being very risky. It's a risky thing.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
it's
and he
gonna
lives in Nigeria, or they live in Nigeria.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's gonna get a ton of attention. And I've read like a few times when I think this person will get harassed by the police and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's brave. You wouldn't catch me doing that in Nigeria.
But where I was going with that was some time ago. Maybe it was on.
You think Bobrisky has OnlyFans?
You said what?
I say, do you think Bobrisky has OnlyFans?
That's a good question.
Probably. Don't act like y'all don't know.
Yeah.
Y'all are subscribers. Anyway.
I'm like, yeah, it's $12.99 a month. You know what I mean?
But
no, where I was gonna go. The reason why was that some time ago was like I don't know what I'm going to use he or she, whatever. Like you just said something like, okay,
yeah.
I think it like Bobrisky had mentioned that the parents did not approve of, but maybe the parents or they did not approve of the lifestyle that he had initially when he was nothing. So of course now that he's this successful, or at least he has enough to be able to take care of, all of a sudden whatever he is do not matter to them anymore. Like they like they talked about how like it was a shame to the parents. Like, they were ashamed of the lifestyle, and then anyway, I just thought that was interesting that you have these parents that were super.
Oh, right. As far as like the connection between the football thing, right?
Because it was Bobrisky was taking care of them. Anyway.
Well, that's standard, right? Like from all of the famous Nigerian actors in Hollywood, like, or even what's her name? Yvonne Orji talks about this, right? Her parents wanted her to be a doctor. They were like, "What is this comedy thing?" But now they're like, look at my daughter, Yvonne is very, very successful. It's the way that they are, right? And so, but that's
they just want you to be successful, and like I think they're scared if you go down a certain path.
Exactly.
That's part of it. Like you're not going to be, and then when you are, like, oh, okay.
They're like, "Oh,
thank God."
You know who, Fela, right? Fela was supposed to go be a doctor. So the UK.
Isn't that true for every Nigerian though?
Yeah.
Technically, that's just standard. Anyone you're either a doctor or someone who was supposed to be one, and that's
this is facts.
They were like, can you imagine? Like they were going to send his ass. His ass was going to be a doctor. And then he studied music or something. Like it was, and I don't think I'm making this up. Like, I don't even think the parents knew until like graduation or something that this
Oh my lord.
guy studied music.
That's funny.
When
Yeah.
my sister like switched from pre-med to psych,
Oh
it
my
was like the Spanish Inquisition. It was like she's like, oh, I have to tell them. Oh my god! I think it was like on New Year's or Christmas when she told them. It like you would have thought somebody died the way that like just the whole vibe of the house was. And I was like, well, look, I don't know why.
That is the funniest thing ever. She's probably what is she? Does she have a PhD in psychology now?
She has a master's and she'll probably get a PhD. Like,
That's so
I mean, they were just like she literally is a therapist. Like,
It's like, look, I don't want to be a psychiatrist. I don't want to give meds. I just want to be a psychologist. Is that okay? And then it's like, no.
I mean, it's like, so what are you like? It just felt like this end of the world thing. Like, and it's why I'm just glad that like the thing I wanted to do happened to be on the list because one, if I had wanted to do something that wasn't on the list, I definitely was that child who would have like been like,
you know,
and what?
You know the funny thing? I know of this person whose mom wanted them to be a doctor so bad, and didn't go to med school, nothing. That the mom kept telling people that my child is a doctor.
That's
oh my
so funny.
god! See, that's delusion. That's just...
Really? I saw your daughter at Chick-fil-A working there. So I don't. Did she do that for part time?
This brings me to a hilarious thing. We're all lawyers, which is technically.
That's on the list? Would I be acceptable as a Nigerian?
No, yeah, lawyers definitely on the list.
All right.
Doctor, lawyer, engineer, pharmacist for like. Pharmacist, but that's really like.
But you're really planning on going to med school.
Bet, right? Like it's like. Because in Nigeria, I don't think people are like, oh, you should be a pharmacist. But like here, because they like pharmacists like make good money or whatever. And then accountant, I guess, architect is fine too. Certainly nothing in the arts. Those are not allowed. But you got it.
When I was in high school, I remember like I had this wide breadth of things that I thought I wanted to do, right? I was like, I would like to study French or philosophy.
What?
Yeah.
I would have laughed in your face.
Look, you can do whatever you want. Even though I don't have to tell him that, there's things he can do.
You can do whatever you want as long as you're a doctor. That's the Nigerian.
You can be any type of doctor you want.
Look, you can be a psychologist, you can be an anesthesiologist, even a chiropractor.
You have so many options. You have so many options. There's like 20 doctors you could be.
Exactly. Hey, look.
Some Nigerian parents are so ridiculous that they will do. It doesn't even matter what you do. Like if they're going to take scraps, and what I mean by that is they will Jones for you to go be like a PhD in soil science so that they can be a doctor.
Yeah.
So
I will say, my graduation weekend, my sister graduated from her master's program about a couple of weeks before I graduated from law school, and my parents are in town for graduation, right? And so like that day, I don't know, I think my dad was like saying a prayer or something, and he goes, I just want to thank God, my two daughters got masters, and I was like. Point of clarification, because look, I've never asked anyone to call me doctor. I don't think that is the appropriate title for a lawyer. But you're not gonna call my JD a master's.
That's hilarious. It's literally like 1 year less than a JD. You're like, hold up now. We get the special hats with the doctorate hats.
Yeah, okay.
The masters get the cardboard hats.
I'm a doctor. Like
everyone asked me that. Like, why? Like, so you're gonna be doctor, whatever now? And I was like, no.
No, because I'm not a douchebag. Who would say that? Call me Doctor Lawyer. I mean that's ridiculous.
So I would say there is this Nigerian politician. I think he's in like the equivalent of Nigerian Congress, right? Who got a JD here who refers to himself as doctor.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that's
I don't know
ridiculous.
if he's still in Congress right now, but he definitely was in Congress.
You know, to be honest though, look, if you got it, wear it. Like
That's worse than Esquire. So
he
then
would get away with that. He would get away with that in Nigeria though, because
of
he's a
course.
doctor, and nobody's going to question that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
that's so interesting. My dad's a doctor, and
Like a real doctor.
yeah, like a medical doctor. It's called a medical doctor.
Wow.
Yeah. But there was never he had none of his kids became doctors, and he never really pushed either. Like,
See, yeah.
which is interesting.
My Nigerian self can't relate. Look, if one of my parents had even a honorary PhD, it would have been over. Over. What? Literally, like my mom, went to college. My dad went to college, ended up getting an MBA, and like they were still like, you attain the highest level of the education that you can attain. Like,
yeah, we my dad, he has 6 kids. He got 2 lawyers, 2 speech and language pathologists. So that's that. Look, it's not bad. And then my youngest sisters one's a news reporter and one's an actor.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
yeah, so we kind of started skewing towards like the arts. But
is in this show called, is it called The Good Doctor?
yeah, my sister's a good doctor.
First of all, I love The Good Doctor. Which one? It's just sister.
So she just came in on season 4, and she was
I haven't watched season 4 yet.
Watch season 4. I think it starts episode 4. She's in 7 episodes, I think.
That's
and she's
amazing.
Yeah,
like, she's in that.
She's a new resident.
I'm excited. Well, okay, that's like for real legit. Okay,
yeah,
sister.
yeah, check her out. No, she's again. It's like that thing, and it's funny because she graduated from. She got a master's in like theater out in San Francisco at like a really good school, and within a couple of months, she had an agent and stuff, and then she got The Good Doctor. She's very very
Good Doctor is really good. Like I so the end of season 3 like broke my heart. Like I cried. Apparently this is becoming a theme.
I mean,
but
the funny thing is, as I'm typing her name in Google, it just came up Good Doctor.
Summer Brown, Good Doctor. Yeah, she's gonna get. I'm sure she'll get a Wikipedia page. But actually, interestingly enough, I think when she was kind of doing her contracts and stuff, she was dealing with the lawyer that represented Issa Rae and a couple and other like black people doing their thing. So watch out for Summer Brown. She's very very good. Super proud of her.
I got to stop delaying my season 4 watch.
Yeah, check it out from episode 4. She's Olivia Jackson, and she plays a doctor. So it's the closest thing my dad ever got with somebody playing a doctor.
Oh, that's funny.
He's like, I'll take it.
Look, I think.
And would a Nigerian family take that?
I feel like
once you're on TV.
Yeah, no, right, and then you're now a doctor on TV. Not only will they take it, they will start calling you doctor. For sure.
Right. Just call you your character's name on the show.
I thought she was your daughter. Yes. But when she's became a doctor, she has a different name.
When she was on the show, I mean the very first episode that she was on, I had kind of like Googled her, and I saw that like even your hometown like newspaper website, like all these.
I mean, hey.
Yeah. No, you'll. I mean, I know people think I would talk about her. I'm like, no, she's really good, but I know people thought and deep in their hearts, like he's just saying that because it's his sister. But I really think she's
like,
but no, I legit. If I didn't think she was a good actor, I just wouldn't say anything. I was just like, oh yeah, she's doing some stuff.
Fair.
You know,
yeah.
I'm not like I really like. I've seen other people act, and I've seen her act, and she works really hard. And
okay, so let me ask you. I have a question. So I noticed that you've said actor quite a few times. Like, if we say
Mhm.
actress, would we get canceled?
No,
Oh
it's
my
not. You won't get
Lord.
canceled. But it's so interesting. We gotta
It's
have
more
Summer on here, and
inclusive.
she's gotta explain it. But she got me saying actor because for her, she was saying it's not gonna get you canceled. But in her acting world, they refer to everyone as an actor, and they think that actress is slightly outdated, even though most people who aren't actors say actress still. Like
Yeah,
I don't.
I try to balance that,
But I
but I
never
see
even
that.
thought of it until she said that. And she's like, I'm not going to cancel you, but it's just like when they talk about it in their industry, they call everyone just an actor. And like actress is kind of like, it's like, it's not like derogatory. It's
Unnecessary
unnecessary. Right.
gendered, right? Like it's
Right. It's just like,
unnecessary. It's drawing attention to the fact that someone's a woman, where it
right.
oftentimes is not really relevant to the conversation.
Right. So that's kind of what she was saying. So I'm not doing it to be try to act like I'm better than or something. But when we talked about it,
Is the is
I
this
just got used to it. I
is
just
this
got
your
used because that's how she refers to herself. So that I just got used to it. But I realized it might.
I have another question about that. So I remember the very first time I saw the sentence Latinx, right?
That one,
man,
I don't know how to
this is
say
an
that one yet.
interesting
I'm not
one.
progressive enough to like throw that into conversation casually. I don't feel like I can get away with it.
So I remember the very first time I saw it, and it was just, in a context.
It's jarring.
I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, is this a typo? Like, and Latinx, I'm like, and we didn't have any conversation about. Like,
You're like, where's this thing coming from? Have you seen what? I don't know how you say it. The woman
Woman X.
like an X.
Yeah, Woman X. Or wait, Womex.
Where I literally look at it. I'm like, I don't know how to say.
But that isn't. But that is. Because they don't want men in there. Is that why?
Yeah.
But then
I don't think that's what that is. I think it's like just. I think both of them. Well, with the Latinx and the Women X, let's just call it that, are different. They're doing different things. Right? My understanding is for the Women X, it's the idea is to expand sort of the definition or the category of
a
woman to include. So, like, I think that the idea is that Woman X includes trans women, whereas the term women oftentimes doesn't. And so it's just another way to be more inclusive. Whereas Latinx expands the term Latin, instead of having to use actor or actress, Latino, Latina, to just use one word that includes men, women, and everybody else across the gender spectrum. So they're doing two slightly different things. But I don't say Latinx because I don't really have a context to use Latinx in. Like, I don't even know that I say, oh, my friend is Latina. Like, I'm just like, my friend is Jessica. Like, that's it. Because oftentimes, it's like.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
I have a few Latino and Latina friends, and they're like, I don't understand what the heck that is.
It is funny when people make phrases and the people they're supposed to be talking about are like, yeah, we don't.
This particular Latina woman that I know, she was like, that's just something white people made up.
White people make up a lot of shit for minorities without their consent, and that needs to stop.
Well, like there was a Twitter like rant about, not really rant. It was like, I wish I could find it now. Somebody went in talking about it, and essentially the point they were making was about, like, it's not like if you go to Mexico City or Guatemala, like no one out there is gonna use Latinx, right? But it does. I understand why progressives use it, right? And I think it's the same way that, like, it's challenging gendered adjectives, pronoun, what, I don't know what that word, like, because really, like, why do we need to say, like, if you're a trans man who's from Latin America, maybe you don't like the Latino, like maybe so it's one of those things where it's like, it's more of an academic usage, I would say, than like street usage, right?
Yeah, so I actually think I totally understand it, because with Spanish, right, like Spanish is a super specific language. Like if you're gonna describe stuff, it's very descriptive and unlike English, I mean similar to French where
Right.
also have feminine and masculine articles, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The thing though is I'd always wondered why it is that, it is descriptive in that if you say Latino specifically, you are referring,
Right.
a male, and you say Latina, that's female. Okay, fine, that's fine. You can have that. But then if you're going to refer to everyone collectively, Latinos, if you go like if you're including both male and female in there's Latinos. Now, if you say Latinas, you're talking about
Right. It's like
Women,
it's right.
yeah.
It's yeah.
so like I always wondered why that is the case. I mean,
I
Right.
mean, it's one of those
It's
progressive
like-
things, right? Oh, you mean like why we? Well, because the male is always used for the plural, right? Like there's
Right.
and that
I'm
and
trying
that, and that's the inception of language, and that's
right. But
how the language has evolved, where it's more, it's kind of like, okay, the male thing is just what we're going to call everyone. It's just like
right, and that's the thing. That's kind of the annoying thing, right? It's like, look, why is I mean, which is why I like Texas, or whatever we do there in the South, the y'all, right? Like because you don't have to worry about gender when you say,
and
Mhm.
it's kind of like that in English too, even though people don't usually say anymore. So for instance, like if you think about when folks first landed on the moon, they're like one giant step for man there really
right,
refers
like mankind, right?
Mankind,
Like,
yeah.
to all of human, like like you say that in man, and anyway.
Yeah. I like the thing they started doing. I don't know how long ago it was, but where they would say she as the default as opposed to he in like contracts or
right,
just in like
right.
instructions
I
and
do
stuff.
like
Like
that.
I'm definitely for that. Where you just
Yeah.
like do a random example of something and you just the default is this person is a woman because there's no reason why it couldn't be. And we would usually do he.
Yeah.
I mean,
Have
we
y'all
always
heard that?
do.
Is it a riddle? I don't know what it is, but if one of you has heard it and the other hasn't, don't give away the answer. It's this question where it's like, okay, so a father and his son were in a car accident, a horrible car accident. They get to the hospital. They're about to go into surgery. The doctor, starts to, the surgeon starts to, whatever, is about to start surgery, and then looks down and says, "Oh no, I can't do the surgery. This is my son." Right? It's one of these questions that they ask, and people are like, "Wait, what's going on?" Right? Like, and so the answer is, "What do you think is going on?" Right? And people are like, "Oh, it's not really the dad. It's the." Have y'all heard this?
I've heard the riddle. Do you know what it is, like?
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck y'all talking about.
So,
He's
so
like,
basically,
sounds
I mean,
like a
I
movie.
can just tell them,
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is. I mean, this was actually on the Cosby Show. I don't know if you've seen this
really?
episode, but there was a riddle. This is kind of like a riddle that's been told several times.
Right.
It's trying to get at people's gender expectations, and basically, the answer is the doctor is the son, is the child's mother. But because people are so used to doctors being men, they're like, wait, how can that be that doctor's son? Like, because the son,
and people's minds are literally like,
so the dad, was in the car accident or whatever.
then who's
So
this
he can't be the
person?
doctor. So who's this person? And people don't think, oh, the son's mother is a doctor. So anyway, yeah, that was actually on the Cosby Show, and like I remember Claire knew the answer, and like kind of the
Right,
joke was that like Heathcliff. I mean, he's very problematic. We're talking about the character, not Bill Cosby, but the character on the show was he didn't get it. He was like, wait, what? And so Claire gave him shit for not getting it. But
Even though he's married, and that's interesting, right? Like he's literally married to a female doctor, to an
attorney,
right?
but he's a doctor, right? So
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But still, it's like dude, what? But I think my dad did that riddle for us when we were younger, and I may have struggled when I was a little child.
Yeah, well, I mean, society is a very
It
relevant
just like
part of like even now, right? Like I heard it most recently at like a diversity thing at the firm, and more than half of the people in the room or like giving examples like, oh, well, maybe it's a homosexual couple, right? Like it's like two fathers. People like
right.
people go as far as like maybe it's an adopted kid and she now recognizes, the father now, the surgeon recognizes his son. Like, and this is it's been around a while. People are still getting,
Like getting it wrong.
gotten by it. And you're just like,
They're like, well, maybe they're from
come
New York and they
on.
call everybody son up there. So he was like, yo, this is my son. Or it could just be his mom.
Example, but women can be doctors. Like, what is like we have Grey's Anatomy where like half the doctors are women, and still y'all refuse to think of women as But it's an interesting bit, right? Like at the end of the day, I think that gendered language is definitely getting challenged more and more, and I think that's a good thing. And so, like, I don't think that like Latinx is a problem because people in Latin America don't really use it or get it. Even the term Latino, like, I don't think that like some random Colombian girl is like, yeah, I'm Latino, like I'm Colombian, like the same way that like I didn't really think of myself as a lot of things. I certainly didn't think of myself as African until I like moved here. I'm like, I'm Nigerian, I'm Yoruba, I'm a woman. It's like, oh, I guess, yeah, this place I'm from is on this continent, so I guess technically I am African, but I didn't walk around like, oh, it's an African woman. So if someone is like, oh, what do you African women think? I mean, I don't fucking know. Like,
I'm not an African woman. What the fuck is that? What does that even mean? That's like me going somewhere like to Asia and they're like, oh, well, as a North American, how do you feel about that? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm a what? I guess technically that's my continent.
Right,
but
these words
that's not an identity that I subscribe to. I don't even think about it like that.
Like even Black, like it took me a while to like consider myself as Black because it just didn't like I'm like
it doesn't make sense in the context of Nigeria.
Yeah,
no one's like, I'm a Black person.
Right, like no, I'm a strong Black woman. I'm like, oh, okay.
We're all Black women here. I don't know, except for the random Lebanese who have restaurants and
right. And make a lot of random Indians too.
I remember we had this position in law school, Manny, where we're trying to figure out. I forgot which one you said you were, whether you said you were Black or African American. Like
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah. Now it's Black. I don't know what I said back then.
Yeah.
But to me, African American just didn't stick. It was one of those things, and it'll be interesting to see where Latinx, if it lands. Like, because sometimes people will say, okay, let's start calling people this, and it just doesn't stick. So it's like, nah, we're good. That's ridiculous. Like, so I don't know. Like African American, they tried, and where they had it for like, it was in the 90s. I remember growing up, people would say it, and it was almost like Black was. It almost got to the point where like Black was a bad word, and I was like, wait a minute, Black is not a bad word.
People are still uncomfortable. Some white people
like with like saying Black, and they're getting more comfortable with it now with like Black Lives Matter and etc. But I think I'm proud to be Black. Like my identity is a Black. Black. It's not even Black American. I mean, yes, I'm American, but to me, Black. Like when I think of Black, I think of Black Americans. Like that's my ethnicity.
Right.
Black,
Yeah, because like Angolans aren't running around thinking of themselves as Black.
But going back, if I remember, but you were saying you were African American at that time, right? Like
I don't know if I said that. Did I say that?
I thought that was what you. Maybe I'm misremembering it. I think you were. I am African American. I'm not Black. Like Black. I think your argument at the time.
That's interesting.
Black covers Africans as well, and
And you wanted something more specific.
And all of this stuff, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think that was
so I was yelling at you, who is African, and I was like, "Well, I'm African American." Like, dude, no, you're not. When have you been? Did I say that? I could have. I'm not. That was like a decade ago. So anything I said, and anytime you're like, I remember we had this conversation in law school. I'm like, oh God, please don't say whatever I said. I don't remember what I said. But I made ridiculous points. But yeah, I consider myself black.
Yeah.
Y'all are African American. I'm black.
See, so this is an interesting thing. Like, what do you like primarily identify as based on your race or ethnic?
Like, I don't always identify as black. I mean, Manny, correct me if I'm wrong. I've always kind of been kind of like a radical, right? Like,
you've been of like stereotypical like Nigerians and other black people from other parts of the diaspora. You've been pretty down with black people, like descendant. Black Americans. It's hard to. I'll call it descendant of slaves, even though technically people in the Caribbean were descendants of slaves, but like United, American descendant of slaves.
So
Aiitt.
Many years ago,
there we go.
Many years ago, I'm talking about like among Nigerians that I know, I was probably one of
the first, because I wasn't like
that wasn't a thing in the Nigerian immigrant community where they identify. That just never made sense to me. Like, you want to say, well, I'm like, dude.
Well, I mean, so to me, it comes back to. And and in this context, I mean Black American, right? Anti-blackness is rampant in the Black diaspora, right? Like in the African diaspora, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
And so, and I think you were making the point on an earlier episode about how, like, people in Brazil watch, what's that show? Everybody Hates Chris, right? Like, we in Nigeria, at least for me, like, I honestly didn't really know or see that many Black Americans, like, other than like rappers and stuff. And so, and then you move here, and a lot of African immigrants are very anti-Black, right? Like, because it's America, right? Like, America is anti-Black. And so when you come here, it's one of the things, it's sort of like in the pamphlet is fuck Black people,
right? Yeah.
Worship white man, worship the US dollar, right? Like, those are sort of the things. And so you take that in, and then the first question you ask yourself is, if Black is bad, in quotes, right? Then I can't be that thing. And so how do I not be that thing, right? And so and of course, this does not happen in sort of a methodical way, but eventually you're just like, well, I don't know what those people are, but I'm not one of them, right? And then because of how people and, societies work and communities work, you also get that message that you're not one of them from that community, right? So it's like, if Black people are telling me I'm not with them because I got an accent and I talk a little funny and my name is a little funny and I eat funny food, and America is telling me it's better not to be one of them anyway, right? So then I'm like, look, I'm gonna be over here. Like, I used to argue, even through like college. It's in college that I finally started to like get a little woke. Like, I joined NAACP, like, and I was like, oh shit, like, this shit is real. But until then, like, I used to even through, right? Like, I'm probably like the most radical I've ever been on a lot of things, but like that's not like overnight, right? Like, there are arguments that I'll still have where I'm like, look, like, it's weird to me when people say you're the real African American. Like, that bothers me because I don't know what they're trying to get at, but I'm like I think of myself as Nigerian American, and I always say like Nigerian first because that's like, that thread is, it's probably more visible for me, and it's more important for me or whatever. And then I'm also like very American. So like, I'll talk to some people in Nigeria who are like, you're Nigerian, what's this American thing? And I'm like, look, you don't get to tell me what I am. I'm gonna tell you what I am. You can accept it or not. It's none of my business. But but it essentially is this like I'm Black. African American, definitely, like, that doesn't make sense to me, because like, if you're going to give me a hyphenated identity, then put the Nigerian in there because it's the most specific, right? But Black now, like, I think of myself as Black. At some point, there's probably someone out there who's like, yeah, you said this to me. I probably at some point said Black is a color, like I'm a person, some like nonsense like that. Which is just like such ridiculousness. Like,
that was in the pamphlet. That was in the pamphlet you got from white people when you came over here.
I'm telling you, it's like you're like, Black is bad. I'm not that. And also, it's part of like my struggle with the N-word, right? Because and that I still like. I mean, now I say it because I guess the Americanness in my hyphenated identity. But like, I'm not sure that I'm not 100%. Like, if somebody were to make the argument to me that Africans don't get to say the N word, like, I wouldn't fight them on it. I'd be like, I mean, you're right.
Yeah, it's like,
You're
my bad,
right.
nigga. I mean, sir. I mean,
It's like, shit, nigga. You right, nigga.
nigga, you right. I fucked up, nigga. I did.
Right.
I'm sorry. No, I totally get it. It's definitely it's a different identity. And it's a complicated subject, like figuring out like where you identify. I mean, Geneva and I were talking about it, and we talked about it for like an hour or so, and we're like, so in the end, we're like, basically, neither one of us has any idea what we're talking about. Like, pretty much, it's hard to pin down,
Yeah.
things like this. Like, what is your actual identity? Like, what do you think of yourself as? And what, what's the difference? I mean, but I think the conclusion was it's definitely a different identity being a descendant of slaves, and something that I'm very cognizant of, especially when I got into like higher learning, where you notice like the higher up you get in any industry, there are more immigrants like from Africa or the Caribbean. You're going to find more people who are lighter skinned. You're going to find people from higher socioeconomic classes, and it's things that you notice. And we were even talking about Barack Obama and how technically he's not a descendant of slaves in America.
Listen,
he's a mixed race person who's from African Kenyan heritage, and it's a different. And I'm actually listening to his book too. And it's a different identity that he has. And now that I'm reading it from my 31-year-old eyes, I'm seeing how he views America differently than I do, because I'm a descendant of slaves. It's just a different way to think about this country. And he thinks about it in a way that's more optimistic and more of like an immigrant might think of it, or maybe a white person might think of it. And it's fascinating. It's like, and I can't fault him. That's just where he's from. But it is different. It's not the same.
Yeah, Barack Obama hasn't talked to this immigrant. But anyway,
what do you mean by that?
But yeah. I mean, but no, I mean, like, but and then politics are something different. Like, you could be an immigrant, but you could have politics that are more aligned maybe with like a traditional descendant of slaves. But then there are a lot of descendant of slaves who have very conservative politics. It's all wild. I don't know.
For me, I identify. To be honest, like, I don't necessarily think about what I identify as. But if you were to, like, I've always just felt like I was black. That was it. Like,
what is this, like, you land in America, you feel black, or like from your
black,
like, I don't know, childhood? Because that's.
But more recently, I've been thinking more about it, right? And I have noticed that when I traveled, especially to Latin America or even Europe, if I told people that I had Nigerian heritage, I was treated differently. If I told people that I was American, I was treated differently.
Different in what ways?
Like,
I was
both
better
in both situations.
Because there's a perception that maybe I was rich or whatever. So
wait. So before you say anything, you're treated meh. When you say you're Nigerian, you're treated better, and when you say you're American, you're treated better.
I was treated worse if they found out that I was African. I suppose.
Oh well, yeah, because Africans are poor.
So if I said I'm American, there is an aura of
because you're cool. You're American,
but
you're BET.
And you're probably rich if you can figure out if you can get over here.
Right.
But if I was African, like if they thought I was African, totally different. I was treated totally different.
That's so wild, because technically Nigeria's in Africa, but when they think you're African, they just think you're from like, I don't know.
Yeah, they would think I'm a refugee or something like that. So this is and that makes sense. And if you, there was this podcast that I listened to recently. I'm forgetting on it. I'm blanking out on her name. But this was an African American woman that was interviewed in the early 2000s. She lived in France, and I have to send it to you too, so that you can listen to it, because it's so and I would really like to discuss it. I really discuss what she said, because it's so eye opening. It's the same thing that she said so she lived in France, and she was like, and our French got so good that I guess you could easily just think she is Black French, right?
Right.
She said when she is kind of like in a social whatever, she will intentionally kind of like bring it down a notch so that you will know that she's American.
Yeah, because
To get
that's
better, as opposed to
yeah.
you thought she was Black French, which means she's of
She's
African,
an immigrant, right?
which means she was treated shittier. And I had
So if her French was better, she was treated worse.
yes, if like because they
They
Yeah.
thought she was like,
so if you ask, for instance, and I know this because you know I know French folks born in France, grew up in France, or whatnot.
Yeah.
But when you ask them where they were from, they will tell you, "I'm from Cote d'Ivoire, I'm from Cameroon," because
Because they might as well, right? They're like,
their
yeah, they
parents,
don't feel.
or
Yeah.
even North African French folks we talk about, they identify more with being from Algeria or
that's the same with like Black people in the UK, which is like fundamentally different from the American Black like
This is different from
experience.
American Blacks.
Right,
Blacks,
right.
no, there was American Blacks are like, no, I'm American. Like, you know, what are you talking about? I'm not Nigerian. So
Even
Yeah.
like your mama has accent, like your mom's from Lagos, but they're like, yeah, I'm American. Such a weird.
so yeah. So I mean, so she was saying that yeah, they treated Africans badly, and that was, and she made a distinction that she noticed that was the case, which means, you know, at the very least in the French culture, it's not really about race, it's about class. It's the perception that, oh, you're American, you're here in France, it means you have money or you have your.
Well, I wouldn't say it's just it's a combination, right? Because if you were white, right, these things aren't coming up. But because it's sort of like white, let's assume there are only two races, right? It's white or Black. Now that you're Black, we know that you're like in the shitty category, right? Now, which
Right.
are you in the shittier or the shitty?
Right. It's just degrees of shit.
If this was a white Nigerian.
Right, to the extent that such a thing
Oh yeah, that
exists,
doesn't matter.
then
They would be so
the Nigerian
confused.
gets right.
They're like,
The
you can just
Nigerian's
come
like,
in.
right, like, do
You're
whatever
white.
you want.
It's fine. Yeah, we'll treat you
I
with
don't
respect.
care.
Yeah. It's okay. You can come.
So, but I would send this to you like this.
Yeah, no, when I hear it, it's an interesting.
I would send it to you.
Like Jamaican people, like people whose grandma was born in Jamaica and their mama was born in London and they're growing up in London will tell you that they're like Jamaican. I'm just like,
Yep.
nigga.
Like, watch it.
I remember, like, you know, when I lived in the UK, like, I know, like, this 50-something-year-old guy at the time, born in London. Like,
you're from here.
like, straight up.
Literally sounds like the Queen. Speaks her English.
Been to Jamaica just a few times, like, you know.
Like probably like being to Jamaica less than the average American in Miami. Like,
I'm like, dude.
Meanwhile, no one knew Busta Rhymes was Jamaican except for live for the past 40 years.
right, like.
Random fact: Busta Rhymes actually also lived in London for like, for like, some.
That's interesting. You guys know the rapper 21 Savage? I'm sure you maybe have heard the name.
He's like the one who like got in trouble with like the immigration.
Yeah, because he was British.
Like, you're not American.
Those memes about him were hilarious. Oh my gosh. He lost a lot of street cred.
You're like, you were in it, nigga. You were in it, nigga, man. You thought you was with.
Yeah.
Do either of you, right?
He moved to the US when
he was like 5 or something.
And
but he was not he's not a US citizen. Like he literally had immigration issues. Like he was an illegal immigrant.
A British citizen.
Like you can't think it. Where your green card at? Like
yeah.
So I have a question. Or sort of if we're interesting tangent. Are either of you guys on Clubhouse, the app?
I was writing about this. Like, I'm not on it, but it's simply because
because Twitter people won't let us. Those of us who are not on Clubhouse, they won't let us not know what's happening on Clubhouse, which is.
So I actually got an invite to join
Oh,
Clubhouse?
look at
Oh wow,
you.
excuse me. Yeah, you said you'll be leaving this podcast because you're too good for us. This is my last podcast.
The only reason I'm not on it is because I don't have an iPhone. And
I was gonna say I'm the same. It's iPhone only, which
yeah.
makes me never want to join Clubhouse, even if they do come to Android. Because listen,
Are y'all both? So you have an Android too, IO? Is it a Nigerian thing? What is going on?
I don't know. It's not. It's just
I don't understand why you guys just don't have
My dad
iPhones.
has an iPhone. My brother has an iPhone.
Everyone I know has an iPhone. Like from my dad
that blows my mind.
Everyone. I don't. I can seriously count on one hand how many people I have that green bubble with. I was like, man, I must really like Lai to just deal with this green ass bubble because he's the only green.
Most of my textual conversations are on WhatsApp, and so I feel like the bubble is just irrelevant, right?
Got you.
But I've never owned an Apple product. Never. I do now own Apple stock because I was like, you know what? All these Apple people annoy me with this shit. So I'm just gonna buy some Apple stock and I'll make money off of this nonsense.
I think the Apple products are really user friendly, and I've had Androids in the past, and then I guess I just started using Apple probably around 2012. I think is when I got my first iPhone, and I've always been a fan of the iPod. I've been listening to the iPod Nano since whenever it first came out. That was a genius invention. So I've been listening to those, and then I got a laptop.
I think it's because I'm like poor because I just I remember.
But you're not though. It's not even it's not even class at this point. Everyone has one.
No,
but it still feels classes.
It's not. I know so many people.
Part of the reason why I have it is just because I refuse to pay $1,000 for the phone, right? And
let me tell you.
I walk into an Apple store and have no idea what just happened. It's like, I don't know what I'm paying for. I just know I have a new phone. It's like, yeah, well, you paid this a month, and then, you got to go to this place. And I have literally no idea what just happened. But I'm like, all right, cool. But I love my phone.
But you know what? We can end this conversation, but you just give me like a Christmas gift. Send me an iPhone.
So here's my
You got money, you be Aiight.
I think that if someone sent me an iPhone, I would probably sell it.
Why? You know what else is really good? The Apple Watch.
It's really deep. Like for me, it's like it's actually like it's not just
it's like philosophical.
Right. Apple users annoy me. I mean,
you
not
mean
all
everyone?
Of them, right?
You mean everyone but you and Lai?
Everyone annoys me.
The world annoys me.
So recently, right? Someone was like, "Oh, Apple, it's so user friendly," or all of these things, and I'm like, "Here's the deal. Like, I have a Dell, I have a Pixel 4a. I've never not been able to do a thing with my devices that I wanted to do, right? And so it's very possible that if tomorrow I got a job that required me to carry an iPhone and a Mac, I would then, after using that, say, "Oh, but like, why would I willingly go seek that out?" You know what I mean? Like, it's like, one, because also the cost, right? Like, if there was an iPhone that had all the features I wanted and cost the same as a Pixel or whatever, I might consider it, but I probably would still. I'll just stick with Pixel. Like, I'm already happy here because I also am concerned that like one Apple product is a gateway drug to all of them, and so like, what if I get an iPhone and now I'm like, oh my god, I need an Apple Watch and an Apple computer because I need them all to talk to each other and whatever.
For me,
Can't do it.
Yeah, he has a mix. Yeah, he has an iPad. He was the first guy who's kind of a douche walking around with an iPad. I remember that. You always had that under your arm. That was a while ago. That was like an
iPad. I didn't buy it. I actually won it. I won it.
I don't give him money.
I liked it. I used it, but I've always had a Mac.
A Mac.
Like,
yeah.
Always.
Yeah. See, I've never had a Mac.
Oh yeah. So it's not a gateway to anything for me. Like I don't mind.
That's why I don't understand why you don't just get it. Like, get the iPhone. I never understood that.
You really are. You're almost there.
The funny thing is, when I was at the firm, I had a work phone, and they issued Macs at the time. I mean, iPhones at the time.
Yeah. I got a BlackBerry.
I didn't think. Like, I'm like, it wasn't that.
I don't know, man. It's
See, and that's
it's
really
smooth,
interesting.
man. It's
Like that's a
smooth.
very small like set of people who have used iPhones and because iPhone people make it sound like once you touch an iPhone,
Nah,
you will never look back.
exactly.
And like I don't want to. If that's the case, then I'd rather not.
But why?
right?
They're
Because, like,
excellent products, though.
but like I think the thing is there's not a phone related need that I have, right? That isn't like is going unsolved. And so, in sort of this
So
techie
you think?
conversation of like
So
what's
you
right. And that's sort of it's like saying like if I said there is not a need that I have to live in LA, right? Like it's like I don't have a weather related need to live in LA. I live in Houston. I love the weather. Sure. If I got kidnapped and shoved into Los Angeles, I had to live there or whatever. Like I'd probably be like, oh, this ain't too bad. But am I gonna go? Like, no, I'm good here.
yeah.
I'm content. And so that, like, and the price definitely doesn't help at all.
I don't
But
even know that.
I don't want it. It's the thing, like,
Yeah.
and I think it's definitely philosophical. For me.
I have to
Like,
feel like most people, at least in America, have iPhones. Like I don't know what
it's
the
not,
percentage
it's
is.
not. I've looked it up, and if it is now 50, let me look it up.
It's gotta be. I don't believe that most people have Androids. I don't see them. I literally do not see them. I just don't. I see them like, what the hell is that thing? And I immediately question why that person has it, like their judgment on other things. I'm just like, why? Just get it. I don't know.
So
But I
you
will
wanna know
say,
the numbers.
what's that?
Nah, I mean it's not that far. So for 2019, for let's see, Q4 2019, Apple had 49% of the market share in the US.
Mm-hmm.
For
Okay.
Q1 2020, 46. Q2 2020, 46. Q3 2020, they dropped to 40%. That's really interesting.
Interesting.
And then,
Well-
granted, they have the highest market share, right? Like,
Right. I mean, it is just one person
Samsung
against
is-
every
right.
single other person.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I
Samsung
guess
is
that's kind of what
about-
I mean too. It's like,
Yeah.
if one out of every two people has the same exact product from the same company, it feels like almost everyone has it. You know?
Except that.
Yeah. I mean,
I love my
And it-
Pixel.
Pixel be aight.
but
But I will say the iPhone. Honestly, the iPhone is just whatever. It's just a phone. I mean, I think it's good. It works well. It does whatever I need to do. But like the Apple Watch and like the AirPods, like those are, I think, really good products. I use them all the time. Like I don't feel like I'm wasting a single cent.
$20. I don't know what
Nah,
they are. They're great. And I think that's always been the issue for me with Apple. So like I remember when everybody was getting iPods, and like for $30 you can get like an MP3 player from whoever was making them. And an iPod was like over $100, and I just like didn't understand it, right? Because I'm like, I need a thing to listen to music on. I don't need an Apple experience, right? Like,
And I will say I have bought into Apple's marketing too. Like I'm not gonna act like it's completely devoid of emotion, and it's not like I don't feel special or something around it. I like Apple stuff. It just I've definitely bought into that. The marketing worked on me, but I do think they're great products. Like I do use them a lot.
And I think that of course they're great products, right? Like
Yeah, they should be for how much they cost.
Like of course they are. I just don't like, but also like so is my Pixel. Like I love my Pixel.
I don't even know what a Pixel is. Is that Samsung? I love the. Oh, okay. Just like what the fuck? It's so funny. I'll see like a phone commercial,
a non-iPhone,
and I'll be like, what the fuck? Like, or I don't know what it is, and I'll wait until I figure out like if it's Google or iPhone before I judge it. I'm like, oh, it's Google. Ooh, it's Google. It's like, oh, that's great. It's your iPhone.
It's made it easier for sure. Because I also think that like if you so every time I switch phones or I change phones, I have to make a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I used to. So first I was like all BlackBerry until they started to suck, and then I left. And then I think I had like an HTC, and it was like And then I was all Samsungs. I had probably about 4 or 5 Samsungs in a row. And then only last year did I get my first Pixel. Because for me, I later on realized that like really what I needed for all the phones do all the same things, right? The only thing I wanted was a phone that takes great pictures because I don't want to have to lug around a phone and a camera. And so Pixel at the time, I think Apple has definitely brought up their game on pictures because they haven't always been great. I think from the iPhone 10 maybe is when they started like actually like bringing it on the camera, which is the part I thought was ridiculous. I was like, I had my Galaxy was taking better pictures than all of the people who spend twice as much on their iPhones. Like I was like, oh, I don't get it. And so then now that the cameras are better, maybe like I'm slightly less disgusted by it all. But then I have a Pixel, and Pixel takes phenomenal pictures. And so I'm like, yeah. So now, you know, if at some point I decide I'm done with this phone and I want to go to something else, it'll be another decision of should I stay with Pixel or should I go back to Samsung? That's really kind of it for me. Whereas I think that iPhone users, you don't have to make a decision. You're just like, okay, I have an iPhone 10. Okay, I'll get the 11 or do I get the 12? And it's just like plug in. Which I mean, I get it. It's I just
you kind of you're just kind of locked in, and you're like, you've like grown with the iPhone, and you just understand how it works. So even when you have like a new product, if I get the Apple Watch, you kind of navigate it like an Apple product. Like you know what I mean? Like the way it moves and the way you sync with it. It's like, oh, I understand how to speak Apple. I know how to like move this thing around. It's very
when people
seamless.
give me their iPhone to do something, I'm like,
yeah, it's probably a little awkward. It's like, what the hell? Like, yeah.
And then that's the other thing, right? So like, whereas people say it's user friendly, from my experience, which is minimal, I don't understand that point because I have touched these devices and they have not come naturally to me, right? And so I'm like, is it user friendly, or is it if you learn to like? It's like saying they're like, oh well, French is user friendly. Yeah, if I speak French.
Yeah, if you were born in Paris, then sure, like, it's.
Like, I don't speak French. I'll tell you it's user friendly. Like, oh, je means I. Of course, that's like no, I don't. And so that's where I'm like, I don't buy the user friendly argument. I think maybe there are better arguments to be made. But again, I mean, one day will I own an iPhone or Apple product? It's possible, but as of today, at the end of 2020, I've never owned one. So I don't know when I would.
So quick thing, I just went on Apple's website and
bought a phone.
No.
Oh my Jesus!
I convinced you.
I'm looking at iPhone 12, right? They're saying this starts from $999.
That's so sad.
But is it though? It's something you use all the time.
Wait. Or $41 a month. Now, of course, Manny is going for the $41 because
so you're not thinking about it, right?
Like you just paid $1,200 for your freaking.
Hey, your phone can't do nothing different from my $350 Pixel 4a. Not a damn different thing.
Starting at $1,000. So nobody gets the starting like the lowest rate.
No one just throws him a bag of cash, like $2,000, and takes out an iPhone. That's when you're balling, when you buy it straight cash.
They're not giving you and that's the other thing. I've always bought my phone straight cash, which I think that might be a Nigerian thing. I don't know.
That is a Nigerian thing because I never heard of that shit. I pay for my phones in pennies. Well, then that's your problem.
Right, because I'm thinking of $1,000 at
fucking weird. You just like drop change up into a jar every night and then bring a big jar after a year.
I've paid for. I don't think I've ever paid for a phone a little at a time.
I will say buying an iPhone is complicated.
I'm not taking out debt.
It's kind of like buying a car. It's so wild. But my firm pays for some of it. But it's like I walk in and I don't know what happened, but I know that I have my iPhone. I'm like, yeah, sure. I have no idea what I'm paying. Like the thing Lai said about $1,200 is news to me. I just heard the 41. It was like. I'm going to take you in next time I go, so you can help me understand what the hell's going on. I'm like, damn.
Like when I first got here and I would see commercials and they would advertise like cars especially, and they would say how much it is a month. I'm like, my brain does not understand that. Like, how much is this car? Like, it's not $300 a month. Like, that's not the price of a car. That's your payment. But like, How
Yeah.
much is the damn car? Like,
Yeah.
you need.
But I mean, I will say I use my phone. I mean, I don't. There's nothing I've ever used as much as I use my phone. So to me,
Yeah.
I invest in technology
it's not
because
no phone, right? Like we all have phones.
no, I know, but it just I don't know. It just is something that's easy for me to use, and I'm just used to it. And I don't mind spending money on technology. I don't buy a lot of like. There's not a lot of crap I buy, but when it comes to like technology and things I use. Like I totally think that, you know, my Apple Watch is justified. Like it's changed how I work out and like all types of stuff. Like I use it every single day. Same with my AirPods. I use them all the time.
Look, I can't. Those AirPods, y'all lose me on that because I will absolutely lose it, and I cannot spend that kind of money on something that I know that I would lose. I mean, like also like I don't even know like can a non-iPhone user even use one of those? It's probably like against the law.
Yeah,
But,
you might
like,
get shot.
Although I like, you know, I've had like on 2 occasions I've stuck an AirPod in my ear and gone, oh, okay, this is good sound, but it didn't.
But they come in this little like case. So I never honestly, it's way harder to lose headphones that like wired headphones for me because wired headphones you don't put them in a case. So with this, I put in my pocket. And I always, you know how you like feel for your phone or whatever? Like I feel for my phone, I feel for this thing. If this thing's not in there.
Because those two together could pay 2 months rent in some places.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily get the most expensive AirPods, but you know.
There are different ones. I thought, you know what? I should have known. I should have known they would try to get y'all with some extra.
Yeah.
This is the first time realizing there are more than one type of AirPods.
Yeah, there's a regular one. There's an AirPod Pro. They're coming out with like an over the ear.
Really just
so that's getting a little ridiculous. I'll even have to admit the over the ear thing is like. But I thought you said it wasn't over the ear. That was cool. Now it's cool it's like it's both. Get both. It's like oh god. So I mean I know they're full of shit at times too.
Money.
They're printing money.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we have fun on the show.
Tell a friend to listen to you, B.I.
Yeah. Manny, any last words for the folks, for the 4 people that listen to us?
There's got to be 5 now, but thanks for listening. Keep listening.
The 5th one is in Nigeria. That's
and that was probably the longest UBI. I'm inclined to just put this whole shit on as one episode and see what happens.
Hell no.
So.
Please don't do that. No, don't do that. I would suck for everyone. I hate long podcasts. I hate listening to anything over an hour, personally.
We should try it though. You know, just try one. It doesn't. Who cares? Like people will listen to it or they won't.
No, we have a few that went over an hour, like an hour 30 minutes, and they are one of the lowest listened to episodes.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
I would not.
But what about the first one with Mike Tyson?
Yeah, but it makes sense that the very first episode will be one of the most listened to episodes.
I don't know if that's true because wasn't Kiara's longer than an hour or no?
It is, but you know, Kiara probably also got, you know.
Yeah. So if it's just us, well, if it's all 3 of us.
No, so just us. Yeah, some of those long ones.
Just the host of the show. Fuck that.
I'm curious as to like if people will stop, like if my utility will drop because like
you're like we heard
her again, like whatever. So what else you got to say?
Yeah, we need to.
I'm looking at those ones over an hour. Nobody was listening to all that. Like, please.
Yeah.
No, they were. They're. Let me look at. I'm trying to see who we got here. I don't know, but yeah.
We have come to the end of the show. Aiight, any last words?
Google Pixel 4a is great. I don't know. I really like my phone. That's all I gotta say about it. Don't be a sheeple. Don't be I don't know.
Don't be a man. That's my last word.
Don't be a normal person like every single other person in the developed world.
Only 40% as of Q3.
Okay, but what percentage of people have Google Pixels though?
I mean, it's very few, but you know, we out here taking great pictures, and that's all that really matters.
Oh my gosh. Get an iPhone so your thing doesn't come up green on my phone. Thank you.
See you on WhatsApp. That's you know, everybody. WhatsApp is egalitarian. We're all the same. Everybody's whatever color.
All right, y'all.
All right, y'all.
You be all right.
You be all
Bye,
right.
guys.
Yeah. Bye-bye.